Hi, everyone. This is DJ Honeyflow for the Honeyflow Talk Show every Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you tell a friend, to definitely check out the show. Been doing it for almost, I think, over a year now, actually. It's been amazing just interviewing a lot of streamers and broadcasters, people in radio. Now I'm branching out to musicians as well. So it's just been a lot of fun and, just a great ride. So we have another special guest today. And it's always special to interview someone that has been doing incredible things, especially in my home city of Toronto, Canada. He's a radio personality. He's been on multiple radio channels across the world, actually. He works for CHUM 1045 with the MARILYN Denis show. He's the co-host, Jamar, with MARILYN Denis in the mornings, and had a chance to listen to some of his shows this morning, which were really amazing. He's also been heard in DC, in Cleveland, Miami, the Cayman Islands, and Chicago. He's originally from Queens, New York. And, sometimes he's a regular on CTV Saturday mornings and also The Social. I caught him saying a few things on there we're going to talk about, especially when it comes to dating. I may have to ask him a few things that I saw in a clip with The Social that I found hilarious. And, and since I talk about finding love in aisle 2, then it's perfect that I ask him these questions during my show. He's, got a long, extensive resume, especially with so many different artists that he's interviewed, from Sean Paul, Ludacris to Soulja Boy. And, besides just music and DJing the world and traveling, he also has a lot of amazing interests. So we're going to bring him in to talk about those things. And I just find it really amazing that someone is living their life. And you could tell just by reviewing his resume and seeing what he does, basically, that he's really living his passions out, which is very rare. You don't see that too often, that people could find a job that they're really passionate about, but also, he seems to live a life that is really passionate and he does the things he loves, which I think is pretty awesome. So let's bring him in. It's Jamar. He goes by JNIICE on Twitch. So make sure everyone adds him, gives him a warm welcome, does a great show. Can't wait to meet him, his mods, and everyone surrounding him too when he does his Twitch meetup. So let's bring him in right now. Hey, how you doing?
Honey Flow. Wow. 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 Like, not often do you hear people talk about you. So I was just like, that was a very, very warm welcome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you've done a lot. So we're definitely going to get into it. I don't even think we have 2 hours to cover everything you've done.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, it's a pleasure having you. I thank you so much for being on my show. And we're going to see who's also in the room. We could say some quick highs. Do you have your comments on too?
Yeah, you know what? Let me throw that on right there.
Okay,
Boom, there they
sure.
go. Oh,
No
wow.
problem.
Look at the family is here. Those are my usual suspects. They are in the building. I see
Awesome.
everybody. Pure
Do you want to give
piano
a
in the
few shout
house.
outs?
Of
Yeah.
course, if I don't mind. Miss Diva Arts, I see you. What's up, Greek Goddess? Lady Sue's in the house. Who else is in here? Who else is in here? Yeah, I see Greek Goddess. I see Lady Sue's. I know a bunch of people be rolling in soon too.
Yeah, everyone's here.
Everyone's
So
all
thank
in.
you
But
so much. Miss
that's
Diva
my group.
Arts.
That's my group of friends, the usual suspects we call
Oh,
them.
that's awesome. I like Miss Diva Art. She came to my show a few times. I remember her when we were
She's
chatting it
dope.
up.
She's dope.
Yeah.
She's dope.
Yeah,
She's
she
dope.
seems really dope as
I
well.
see my
Yeah.
mod cat Hepburn in the house. There she goes.
Yes,
All
Kat
right, cool.
Hepburn. Thank you so much for linking us up together. I really appreciate that. You could tell she's a hard worker. Like I'm like, this woman right here, is she your manager or agent? Because she should be an
she,
agent.
she is a rare bird
Hmm.
she is a she's another person who's doing exactly what she's meant to do. That
Aw.
I really like when I see people who have really dialed in on what their purpose is, and she manages and promotes very, very well.
Yeah, she's really, really good. I noticed that going back and forth, how much information she was giving me, and I'm like, man, this girl needs to be an agent or a talent scout,
Yeah,
or do something in that area of helping others that are artists that don't really know how to market. She's very good. We got Gator in the building, Greek
the Gator.
Goddess,
All right.
Miss Diva Arts, of course, the one and only Kat Hepburn. Thank you again. We got
The
Lady.
Gator. The Gator says he remembers me from B96 Chicago. So it's a Chi-Town head.
Oh,
That's what's up.
wow.
What's
Amazing.
up? The
Yeah,
Shy's in the building.
we're definitely going to talk about that. Pure piano, Lady says, is it?
Suze as in Susan.
Suze. I mash up a few
It's all
names here
good.
and there. Yeah. All right. So, welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, Facebook and YouTube as well. Make the switch to Twitch. Of course, you'll see all the comments. You won't see them as much on Facebook, but you will see them if you come to Twitch. It's free. It's a great streaming platform for all streamers. All the DJs have invaded in quarantine. So, come check us out on Twitch too. So yeah, we're going to get right into it because I know I only have 2 hours with you, but I'm most excited because radio is such a huge passion of mine. So, just learning about you and learning that you came from a radio background, I want to start with that because I'm most interested in that
Sure.
aspect of you. So, how did you actually start in radio? Because you've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, yeah. There's two different beginnings to my radio career. I'll give you the traditional one, and I'll give you the one that I realized later on in life. So basically, I started off working as a promotions assistant on a station in Washington, D.C. called Hot 99.5. It's a top 40 station. It's like the big top 40 station in Washington, D.C. But at the time when I started working there, it had just started. The station was maybe about a year old. And I was in college. I was a student at the University of Maryland, College Park. And the story goes like this. I was working part-time at Dave and Buster's. I was like the joke, from In Living Color about Jamaican people. We have four jobs, man. I literally had four jobs. Like
Aw.
I worked at Dave and Buster's. I worked at Best Buy. I used to valet park on the weekends, and oh yeah, I also did security for events at the campus. And then one day while I was at Dave and Buster's waiting tables, they had these party rooms, and there was a party room. And this radio station was there doing I think it was a season finale party for the show called The Gilmore Girls. Do you remember that? Yeah, from back in
Yeah,
the day.
definitely. I remember that.
So they were doing a party with listeners trying to promote the new radio station. And then I walked up in the party and I saw them in there. And I just, I always dreamt of, maybe working at a radio station. I tried to work at my campus radio station, but didn't really work out. I don't remember why it didn't work out, but I went in there and I was like, yo, are you guys hiring for any positions, anything? And there was a guy named David Lee. And he was like, yeah, we're a brand new station in DC. We're looking for people for the street team. Why don't you come down next week for an interview? I was like, cool. So I went down to the station that was, in a town called Rockville. If anyone from Maryland is listening, I went right down to Rockville Pike, and I went in there, and they hired me on the spot. I was like,
Wow.
yo, I just kind of told them about myself, that I was a student from, originally from New York, and I had a music background, and I just wanted to get my feet wet, just to make some extra money, essentially. So I started working as a driver for the trucks. They had the street team wrapped vehicles. Just went around giving out prizes, giving out bumper stickers, candy, all this stuff, tickets, doing promotions. But what really was the turning point in that whole thing was they did a one of those live to airs from, I think it was the Sprite Liquid Mix tour. It was a bunch of rappers and and rock and roll acts together on that tour, and the DJ, or rather the host from the radio station who did the night show, was at the radio station, and they had the live remote set up at the concert. And myself and another promotion personnel who was also a DJ, he had set up his equipment there, and then I was on the mic, and this guy back at the radio station could hear us rocking the crowd over, even he was like, wait, who are those guys? Like, what's going on over there? And someone told me, those are those new promoter guys. They were like, yo, he needs to be on the radio. So, that kind of sparked the idea in my head that, if this guy on the radio thinks I could be on the radio, I also think I could be on the radio. Maybe I really could be on the radio. So, we approached the PD. Long story short, he gave me and the other guy named DJ Chris Styles. He gave us together a night show on the weekends at the radio station. So we started doing like Saturday nights. We had a mix show called the Saturday Night Party Gras, where we did like kind of a host DJ combo. It was a mix show, and then we also did Sundays. And eventually, he started giving me some other fill-in shifts. So I started filling in afternoon drive for a guy from DC who's called the Don of DC. He's a radio legend, a guy named LBD. He used to be on a station called PGC, and he was also on Hot 99.5. I used to fill in for him, and he kind of took me under his wing and just started teaching me about the radio business. Really, like, let me hang out in the studio, tell me about, what it's like to be on promotions, what it's like to be in sales, what it's like to be in programming, how to kind of really get my chops, how to run a board, how to ride a beat, how to do breaks, how to be entertaining. He really kind of molded me. LBD, I give him a lot of credit. I love that man, because he was a sort of a really interesting character too. When he started on WPGC, which is the radio station that Big Tigger, if you're familiar with him,
Yes.
that's where he started. And that's another guy that was taught by the man LBD. LBD is a small, short Italian guy. And for many, many years, no one knew that in Washington, D.C. Everyone thought he was like this big, tall, black guy, because he'd just get on the air and he'd have this voice. It's me, it's LBD rocking the mic so viciously. And he'd like rap
Oh,
and all this stuff.
amazing.
Yeah. And this is before social media, honey. So like,
Yeah.
no one really knew who or what he was. They just loved his style. And that's kind of the style I adopted. Whereas like on the radio, you're not really sure who or what he is, but you just love his vibe. And I was just like, yo, that's the way to do it. Like, be all encompassing. Don't be too polarizing. Be yourself, but just kind of take on a character that is more you than any one thing. It's really just me. It's not like this guy, this guy. It's just me. And that was kind of, my inspiration my approach to radio. So anyway, I'm staking too long on that part of
No,
the
I
story.
love it. I love it. That is so awesome. Like
Thank you.
and it's interesting you say that because people have perceptions. It's almost like before social media really blew up. Like
Yeah.
I remember doing a college show, I don't know, so many years ago, and people didn't know, like they always imagined, I guess, your voice. So when they saw
Yeah.
you in person, I remember a guy came up to me, it's almost the same story, and he's like, wow, you have a really large voice, but I didn't realize you're so tiny in
Yeah.
person. That was the first thing. that he said, seeing me face to face, because you hear the voice, you hear the voice, but you don't hear or you don't see the person, right?
This was back in the
So
day. Like, really, you'd make a picture in your head of what this radio DJ looked like. I remember when I first saw some of my favorite radio DJs, I was blown away by the way they looked. I was like,
yeah,
damn, like, that's you. But
yeah,
those days are over. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, everyone knows. I mean, if you're not visible, whether you're on the radio or whether you're on Twitch or whatever it is, if you're not visible, you're just not there. It's a very, very different game right now.
It's so true, and you have to build up, and it's interesting that you said how much work it takes, because a lot of people don't realize how much work it takes to stream and to
Yeah,
also do radio, learning the boards, learning sales, learning the street team promotions. Like, I'm having a taste of that. It's a lot of work. Like, it's
it
a
is.
lot of grind.
It
Yeah.
is a full business. It is a full
Mhm.
business, and it cannot. I'm glad you said that because it really can't be understated how much it takes to understand the business of radio to survive in it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
you
Yeah.
can't really just jump in and just do it. Like, you have, if even just how we do shows, and the shows that you listen to, the people that are doing those shows are, if they're doing them really well, they're applying some methodology to getting you to stay listening, keeping you engaged, making sure you come back day after day. There's like real things that where I'm doing and saying to make sure that it works right.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely have the voice. Like, that's what I look for. It's like DJs can really tell, if someone's a good DJ or not, right? But for me, because I come from radio background, I can really, really tell. If I close my eyes and listen to your voice instantly, I'm like, yeah, he's definitely got the
That's
voice.
what's up. I
Yeah.
blame my pops. I appreciate it. Thank you very
Have you
much.
ever thought about going into like sports broadcasting? I see you doing that too. If
You
you
know
haven't
what?
tried that.
I I I probably could do it. My personality probably wouldn't work for sports because I'm not someone who is about precision and like numbers and all that stuff. I probably get on sports radio and just mess it up. I'd be like, yeah, he made 3 rebounds, or was it 5? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really about the exacting of things. I'm more about how it makes you feel. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So maybe I could be like the color commentator, be like, he will go all the way. And, like, I could do that. But, the analyzing and all that stuff, that's
Like,
just
I
not.
see you like, if you know Mark, I think it's Mark Armstrong, even the one that does, he's like the MC in the Raptors arena, like just
Okay.
hyping up the crowd or doing that as well. I could kind
Okay.
of see you
Yeah.
doing that,
Maybe I
something
could
like
do
that.
that. Maybe I could do
Yeah,
that. Yeah. I never really thought
exactly.
about it, but maybe.
Okay, maybe you never know. So I know you've worked for some really big top 40 radio stations across North America and overseas. I want to actually mention them, you guys, because he's really done a lot of work in this industry, and it takes so much work and effort to do, and it takes a lot of guts and courage too, to travel and to go to different places alone and to take those opportunities that most people wouldn't, right? So he's worked, some of the big stations he's worked for is Hot 995 DC, and some of you guys may be familiar. He's worked for 965 Kiss in Cleveland. I think it's Y100 Miami, Hot 957 in Houston, B96 Chicago, and then of course now he's with CHUM 1045 in Toronto. Overseas, he's worked for X 1071, Star 927, Irie 989. Ooh, that would be a good one. I need to check out that one. Grand Cayman
Yep.
and BWI as well. So that's quite a few. That's a lot of radio stations. Now, I'm just curious, like I think you got in probably at a good time, I'm assuming, because it's not like that anymore where someone just hears your voice and then all of a sudden they kind of, you work your way in there. It's so hard getting into a radio station now.
Yeah.
Would you say that over the years, like, was it really competitive, in North America and overseas?
I would say extremely competitive because, especially, and I appreciate you just, just listing out some of that stuff. I don't want anyone to think I was getting fired from a bunch of radio stations. Never been fired before. I just went for different opportunities. I know resumes, depending on how you look at it, can denote, a certain thing. My thing was just like, I was always looking to kind of level up and find bigger, and better opportunities and way to broaden my toolkit. But most of those cities that you name, they're major cities, and in the United States, you got 50 states. Each state has about like 5 major cities, literally in a state. And I've been blessed in my career to have worked at major market radio stations where the margins are so slim between, meeting budgets, advertising dollars, the amount of radio stations in a market that compete for the same demographic. So, you can't just, what's the word? It's not on the job training, there's big dollars at stake. And if you don't have somebody in the seat that could actually keep listeners, and retain listening, and grow the CHUM of the radio station, then you're going to lose a lot of money. So with that said, I've worked for radio stations that didn't have a lot of wiggle room in terms of dollars to lose on somebody. So I've been blessed to, be in a position where I've helped radio stations grow, pretty big radio stations as well, but it's very competitive. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting you said that, because I just interviewed Michael Mosh, and his interview really stands in my mind. He works for the Rick Dees show, and he talked about getting on Rick Dees. If you guys don't know who Rick Dees is, he's in like 200 countries. It's crazy. He's produced for Janet Jackson and everything. And he told me
Rick Dees is a radio legend.
Yes, he's
Rick
a
Dees
radio
is
legend.
a radio legend. Like Rick Dees is a career that cannot be duplicated.
Yeah, for sure. And DJ Michael Motion gave me such amazing, timely advice. And he talked about that. He said there's a high transition with radio stations. So he's like, don't worry if you get fired, if you get laid off, if you move. He's like, that's just the nature of the game, He's like, just get your demo together, get things ready and just keep going. But it's very high transition because, yeah, it definitely is dollar based too. It's very expensive to commercial radio to run. Not everyone knows that. People just knock on the door and say, hey, can I just come on air? But they don't realize that every second it's millions of dollars to run a radio station, especially commercially here in Toronto and all these large markets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of, hey, can I just get an interview? Like, I'm Bob Marley's cousin. I had that the other day, which I found funny. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
Someone singing me a jingle, and I'm just like really? Like, I don't know.
That's a new one. That's a new one. Is it really Bob Marley's cousin? Or did you do the research?
No, I don't. Yeah, I never found out who he
Okay.
was. But he did promise that, he could link me up with Bad Boy Furniture as a client. He did promise me that.
Wow.
If I get him on air too, and he was Bob Marley's cousin or something.
Well, Bob Marley has a lot of offspring, so it's not an impossible claim.
Yeah, it's not impossible. I mean, his jingle wasn't bad. I could have used it for my Twitch show. Could have used it for my Twitch show. Wasn't too bad, but
okay.
Yeah, it's always interesting. So do you have like a favorite city or place as a radio announcer that you've lived in so many different places? Like,
yeah, I don't want to give you a wishy-washy answer, but it's just hard to say. I really, every city I've lived in has been a very different experience. And added to my personal growth. I know it sounds wishy-washy and like I'm giving like but it really has. Like, every place, living in Miami, it really gave me the opportunity to, party really hard, but also develop the strength, honestly, to be able to party hard and work hard at the same time. I mean, we're talking about like, out all night and then, at the radio station to work in a couple hours. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
We're talking, I did nights in Miami. So there were days where I'd get off the radio at like 12 and I go down to South Beach or, to Las Olas or to the Hard Rock, and I'd host a party. Then I go to after party and just party with people all night, go down to Club Space, which didn't close until lunchtime the next morning, literally 12 noon, be up there, and then have to go home, get a nap, eat some Lucky Charms on the beach, where my, LA, and then go back to work for 6 o'clock the next day, which is not the most healthy lifestyle. But I do believe that I built up a certain amount of stamina living that lifestyle, which, you kind of need in entertainment and show business. So that's what I took from Miami. I met a lot of celebrities there that, who I'm still linked with to this day that, added to my network. And added to the, when I do an interview, like I could say I have a relationship with certain people, and the conversation could be different than just, hey, I love your album. It could be like, yo, what have you been up to? Like, I haven't seen you in years. So, that's the Miami experience, Chicago experience, market number 3, under New York and LA. So Chicago's a major city. So you get a big taste of, big advertising spending, big events. a legendary station that people have been listening to for like 30, 40 years. To be a part of that is just a whole different, a whole different animal. I could go on and on about each of these cities. Cleveland, Ohio, I worked there for 1 year, and that was actually the first full-time radio job I had. This was out of Hot 99.5, which was a part-time job. And just working in Cleveland, Ohio, and trying to develop a show from the ground up. It was my first time developing a show. I had a show, I called it In the Crib with JNIICE.
I like that.
Thank you. And it was just really a fun show where I made the people who listened to the show, I made them into characters. So I had this one dude, he was a dude from like downtown Cleveland. I'm pretty sure he was gay, but he was funny as hell. And I said, we're gonna call you Baby Lotion. And Baby Lotion Baby Lotion would call up every day and just like flirt with me and say all types of foolishness. I'd be like, Baby Lotion, hang up the phone. Like it would just. I had another guy named Victor Santiago. So that gave me, because it was a media market number 27, Cleveland. So the stakes weren't as high, but it gave me the ability to kind of take chances and take risks and just let my mind go wild and just do whatever, came to my mind. Some things worked, some things did, and some things didn't. But that's the takeaway from that. And Cleveland was such a great city. They call it the mistake on the lake, but it's really it's a nice city with really, really good, humble people who are forgiving and welcoming, which was good for me being a new radio DJ, because people were really accepting of me.
Because it's a small city too, right? I come from a small city, Winnipeg, Manitoba. So it's
probably a lot like that
versus Toronto. The only thing I don't like about Cleveland, I'm sorry, is we may have our first disagreement right now, but it's let's see, LJ. Can you guess?
LeBron James.
I can't.
Come on.
I can't.
It's so funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Because I got to Cleveland and I was there right when LeBron James, the year he left and said he was taking his talents to South Beach, that's when I was there. So it was a big deal. Like I used to see LeBron James driving around Cleveland in this black Rolls Royce Phantom. It didn't even have license plates on it. He didn't need them.
Wow. Crazy.
But, people were really hurt by that whole thing.
Oh, of course. It's like even DeRozan. I'm still hurt with DeRozan leaving the Raptors, but I'm such a hardcore Raptors fan. I don't know if you are or not, but I actually drove to Cleveland from my office like the next day on my own. The tickets were much cheaper in Cleveland, and my manager didn't really know. I didn't really tell her it was a Thursday game.
Okay.
So she's like, "You asked for Friday off. Like, when did you leave on Thursday?" Because she thought I skipped, right? Technically, I did like maybe skip an hour of work and just raced down to Cleveland. Game was nighttime. They blew us out, LeBron, by like 40 points. But we were so annoying. All the Toronto. Everyone
trash
was
talking.
Everyone. Like Toronto was loud singing "Oh Canada" in the arena.
That is so funny.
And then they were screaming back at us. They're like, "USA, USA." Like they're just yelling at us. And I'm in the middle by myself with like a sea of yellow and brown, and they're all giving me dirty looks. And I'm just like, maybe I need to move seats to the Raptor.
Big sports town though, Cleveland.
Yeah,
I mean, when you have towns that are so at the time when I was living there, it was going through a lot of economic difficulty and crime and such. The sports are the highlight, or the really kind of the happiness of happiness of the city, and when you got that's what's up. Look at that. All that trash talk already started. Yeah.
Oh man. Actually, yeah. Where is he now? I can't even keep up. DeRozan. I don't know.
Oh, geez. Where did DeMar DeRozan? I feel
DeGator. DeGator's not in Chicago. That's not Chicago.
Nah, that's probably
Florida?
He's probably. I think he's on the Heat.
He's in Chicago.
Is DeMar DeRozan's on the Bulls right now?
I gotta look that up.
Man, that shows you I haven't been watching basketball very carefully this season. But anyway,
okay.
I mean,
well, so that's interesting. And like it sounds like you're very versatile. Like, do you feel that you have to move to different cities and places? Like any radio opportunity there is, you have to actually really go further, like keep moving? Is that
well, there was a time in my career where I felt that was what I had to do. Now for me, things have to I enjoyed being in a city like Cleveland, but today that would not necessarily be the place I'd go to because my needs are different now. personal and professional. And I think for me now, a city has to match up with what I offer to the city too, you know, in
Hmm.
terms of who I am as a person culturally, the type of things I'm into, what I can bring to the city, because, you know, really this is it's a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if Mobile, Alabama called me tomorrow and said they want
Hmm.
me and they want to pay me $10 million to work there, I'd still decline, because I'd be like, you'd be doing yourself a disservice by hiring me. I don't have much to, you know, contribute to the city of Mobile, Alabama. You could
Hmm.
probably find someone that you could relate to a little better, someone who fits the town a little better. So for me, the thing, a lot of things have to match up. And as I get further and further in my career, that's really what I'm looking for. And that's what really brought me to Toronto. Like, a lot of things in the city, the city checks a lot of boxes for me, more boxes than I thought.
Did you
Um,
actually travel to Toronto? Like, did you know anything about Toronto before you came here?
yeah,
Or
you
you
know,
just took the
funny
risk?
thing is, every year Toronto throws me a birthday party on the 30th and the 31st of July. It's called Caravana.
Hmm.
So I've been coming for my birthday party that
Oh,
Toronto
okay.
throws me every year, or
For
pretty
Caravana.
often. Yeah. So yeah, I was familiar with Toronto on a tourist level, you know, coming here and seeing the streetcars, knowing that, you know, this is a place where Caribbean culture is very, very prominent.
Predominant, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like on that level, but never really, you know, considered living here. I kind of thought about it. I was like, oh, that'd be a cool place to live, but I never thought I'd get the opportunity to live here. I have a couple of really memorable trips from Toronto. Like, I remember coming out here for Carabana one year, going to some club on Dundas, I believe, and like hanging out
Hmm.
with Lennox Lewis.
Oh,
And
wow, okay.
I remember that very clearly. It's just crazy to know that I live here now. Like, to know that I took all those trips and I had no idea I was really coming to the city I'd call home someday.
Don't
Wild.
you feel like it's, like, very tame, though? Because a lot of Americans or anyone outside of the world of Toronto
Yeah.
have this perception that Caribana is Toronto every day, which it really isn't. Caribana, like,
Yeah,
changes
yeah,
a
yeah.
Caribana really changes overnight, and then it's all tame and quiet. Like, it's kinda like Miami, when they have the hip hop fest, I guess,
Yes, or like
right?
Winter Music Fest, or what
Yeah,
any of those or Ultra
or
Music Fest.
Bike Beach Fest or
But yeah,
whatever it's called.
yeah, it's you're right. Like, South, like, case in point, I lived in Miami, and I remember, like, Miami is kind of sleepy outside of those, especially during like the like summertime. Like, Miami's a little dead in summertime, because it's like
Mhm.
no one's really traveling to Miami when it's super hot.
Yeah,
So tourism is down. Most people from South Florida don't go to South Beach. They stay
no,
away from the beach. They're like, I
yeah,
know, you know, it's really all tourists. Toronto, you know, Toronto, I mean, it's hard to ask me that question because I'm from New York City, like the
mhm.
fastest place on earth. So
Yes, yes.
everything's slow compared to where I'm from, in my
That's
opinion.
true.
You know,
Yeah, New
like, so
Yorkers probably think it's like country out here, This is like a big city for me. I still can't get, after how many years, used to the busyness, right? But for you
yeah.
in New York, I can't even, because you're originally from Queens, New York, right?
Yeah, I'm from Queens, New York. But the funny thing is, I'm from a small town. I'm like a small town kid in a big city. It's so
Oh,
I kind of,
okay.
yeah, I'm from a town called Far Rockaway. So
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
I'm from
nice. Oh,
Far
that's
Rock.
so cool. You have
Yeah,
the Avenue, oh,
yeah. That's the
station sign.
yeah. That's I have to have that in my room because
Did you
I
rip that off of the subway or what?
no, I
For the
actually
street
bought.
sign? I would, that's a great idea. I should try
So
that.
this is, I'm glad you asked about that. This
Yeah,
is an original
that's
MTA
cool.
New York City subway sign
Oh,
that you can
wow.
actually, MTA has a site where you can order any train sign for the entire system of the New York City subway.
Oh,
So it's like the
wow.
real metal, it's the real font, it's the real decals that make the stickers that make that sign. So yeah, I ordered it. It's very expensive, but it's authentic, and I
Yeah,
had
that's
to have it.
cool. I like that. That's really
Thank
cool.
you. I
Do you ever go back home? Like, do you ever visit, or is most of your
Yeah,
family in Queens?
yeah,
Do you ever go back
yeah,
as
my
well?
mom is there, my sisters are there, my cousins are all there, so I go home for holidays mostly. The pandemic has kinda messed up my travel schedule a little bit, so I
Mhm.
used to go home more often, but even things since things have opened up, I haven't really traveled as much as I'd like to. But
Do you
I
feel like a lot of similarities too between New York, Chicago, and Toronto? Like, do you
Yeah,
feel
there
that too?
so, here are the subtle similarities. Geographically, Toronto and Chicago are very similar, where it's
Mhm.
like grid city on a lake. You
Hmm.
understand?
Yeah.
You have a lakefront, big tall skyscrapers on the lakefront, beachfront, all that stuff, and a grid coming off of the lake.
Hmm.
New York is not like that at all. New York is like, you know, a bunch of little islands that are all kind of connected by bridges,
Hmm.
and so geographically they're not the same, but culturally, New York and Toronto are very, very similar.
That's the feeling I got too, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Like when I went to Chicago,
Yeah,
like Chicago was a place I wanted to move to actually years ago, but when I went there and I went to and then came back to Toronto, I felt that same feeling and I couldn't figure out what it was because I didn't feel like it was the architecture because they have old and new architecture.
yeah.
But it
Chicago's architecture is like second to none. It's a whole
yeah.
different thing in itself. Like Chicago, man, architecture in Chicago is like everyone needs to go to Chicago and just see it
Yeah, it's
because
beautiful
it looks like something out of a dream, like
for sure. Yeah.
someone's wildest dream. They say I'm going to build a. There's a building in Chicago that's inverted, like literally the building is square on top and then the sides, and then it comes down to a point like this, and it's on the ground like that.
Yeah, it's
It's
amazing.
insane. It's
And
insane.
just
Like,
taking the boat through there, and then there's also a place, I don't know, I think I stumbled across a place in New York when I
yeah,
was crossing the bridge to Jersey,
yeah.
like, it overlooks the entire skyline of New York, it's absolutely breathtaking,
It's
like
beautiful. It's
yeah,
beautiful. So that's what I say. The similarities between New York, Toronto, Chicago. It's New York's culture with Chicago's kind of layout.
mhm.
Mhm.
So, like, it's very rare, like, the only guy people that I see that travel, especially in the States, I've noticed a lot of guys that are in the army, like, they have no problem just moving here, moving there. I find it
Yeah.
really rare, meeting someone that is just willing to just go. Like, I don't know, what's that thing in you that is just like, "Hey, I'm not afraid to take chances or make moves. I'm gonna just, you know, pick up my life and move here or do this." Because Cleveland is very different from Chicago. Chicago is very different from, New York and some of the places, and of course, you, being overseas. Like, what's that drive in you that just says, "Hey, I'm gonna just do this," and, it's like a lot of people live their lives comfortably and sit in one place in a job for many years. Like, what is it in you that says, "Hey, I'm just going to do this"?
Um, how do I answer that? Well, I left home at the age of 17. You know,
Hmm.
so basically I didn't really have a lot to lose. Like for example, when I was living in Maryland, DC, Maryland, um, I was already considering myself like an out of towner. You know, I was there for college, and it wasn't my home city or state. So being there and leaving there wasn't so consequential. It wasn't monumental. It kind of was because I'd been there for a long time, and I had friends there, and it was the first time I ever left, moved away from home. But I left when I was 17. So
Hmm.
um, in that aspect, it was a big move. But once I got my first job offer to go to Cleveland, I mean, I didn't really have to make it wasn't the biggest decision because it was like I'm not from here anyway. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna make this choice. So I ended up in Cleveland, and I didn't I didn't know how long I'd be there. But I was only there for a year, and just not even a year later, my boss was telling me that he was moving to Miami and he wanted me to come to that station with him. And I
Hmm.
was like, well, just so happens I actually want to work. Here, funny story.
Hmm.
When I got the interview for Cleveland for 96.5 Kiss FM, my boss Dan Mason asked me, what's your long-term goal? And I said, well, you
Hmm.
know what? I'm new in this business. I'm not really sure, but there's a really cool radio station in Miami that I'd love to work at someday. It's called Y100. He goes, oh yeah, I know that
Mm.
station. And a year later, he actually got an offer to program that radio station,
Wow,
and then
that's
brought me with him.
crazy. Yeah,
It's insane. So
that's insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he just basically said, hey, you know that thing you told me about last year? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you want to go actually do it? I was like, yeah. So I ended up in Miami, and once again, a city that's kind of a no-brainer for someone like me. I'm from the East Coast. I'm Caribbean, so
Hmm.
I want to be near the culture, and it's there. Yeah, so Miami, was a no-brainer, especially come from Cleveland. You know, you're probably gonna get a little more action. I mean, LeBron did the same thing, right? He took his talents to South Beach. I kind of did the same thing. So
Yeah, for sure. You keep missing all the games, the big games though. So you missed it in Cleveland and then you came to Toronto. Did you come to Toronto a couple years ago before the
uh,
pandemic, or have you been
no,
here
I
for a
was here. I
while?
was here for the championship.
Oh, you
I was
were.
here. That
Okay,
was my
that's
first
good.
year here. Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
only game you need to remember, really. So that's the
Listen,
only one.
there is a joke amongst my friend group that
Yeah.
says wherever JNIICE goes, a championship follows him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's so
every
funny.
city I've gone to, once I've gotten
Yeah,
there,
actually,
like
that's crazy.
once I've gotten to, like, I was in Chicago for the Cubs championship and the crazy, what's it called? Blackhawks, like trifecta run of championships. I was in Miami. What happened in Miami? I forgot. Something big happened in Miami when I was there. I think the Bears actually went there for the Super Bowl when I was there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like that's the joke in my friend group. They go, "You need to come back to New York because the Knicks need a championship." They
Oh,
always
your
say that
friends
to
need everyone needs to keep you here in Toronto then. Like everyone needs to keep,
me.
because
Yeah.
we need to win
Well,
another championship.
and when I
So
got here, yeah, the Raptors did their thing. So, you know,
yeah.
maybe there's something. Maybe I got some championship juice in me. I don't know.
Awesome. That's amazing. So, your do you have like a memorable moment of, because you've interviewed so many artists as well. I'm going to actually go through some of these artists here that I listed. There's so many, either you've met or you've interviewed. You could let me know if you interviewed all of them. I think you have, but I have here Quincy Jones, Sting, Shaggy, John Mayer, Cardi B, Wyclef, Ariana Grande, Sean Paul, Ludacris, Soldier Boy, L.A. Reid would be so interesting to have a conversation with. Kendrick Lamar, Timberland, Jason Derulo, Neo. I love Neo as well, Jazzy Jeff. And you know what, guys, the list goes on. You got to make sure you guys check out his bio. I hope his link is coming up in my chat. If it isn't, if someone could just post his link for me, here it is. And if you could repost his link, that would be great. I want to make sure everyone adds, of course, on Twitch, JNIICE. Make sure you guys add him. He does an amazing show, but not only add him, check his Instagram as well. And then also his website. He's got an extensive bio of many artists that he's interviewed and met over the years too, at a lot of different red carpet events and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's many, many more. I could probably spend another half an hour listing all of them, but we probably don't have that time. So definitely check out his website. And yeah, it's just interesting seeing all the people that you've connected with. You definitely strike me as a people person, which you need to be able to do a great interview and
Thank you.
really, engage and connect, a crowd of people, and also keep the artists interested, because I'm sure they get the same repetitive questions every single time. So I could tell your style is very personal. And when you're just connecting with people, it just feels more natural than just a straight interview. So I was just wondering, out of all these artists and maybe artists I haven't listed, thank you, Kat Hepburn. I appreciate that. Yeah, his Instagram, make sure you add Jamar JNIICE as well. So was there any artist that you interviewed that was most memorable, or anyone to you that you remember?
Man, I've and like you said, like just hearing you say it back to me, I really have interviewed and encountered a lot of
You have,
artists.
you have.
It's kind of wild, man. Like just as I think about it, I'm just like, geez.
Hmm.
But the one artist that really has hit me, that is just an amazing encounter to me, is one that I don't even think I interviewed her, but it's just the fact that it's like the look at me then, look at me now type of thing, and it's Rihanna.
Nice. Yeah.
I encountered Rihanna 2 different times.
Hmm.
When I was working at Hot 99.5, this was my first radio job, and I was working as a promotion intern, or a promote part-time. I was cleaning out the promotions closet. I remember like I had like a mail crate full of CDs, and I
Hmm.
was in there like kind of organizing them. And then there was these double doors, glass double doors from a kind of courtyard that lead into the radio station through the hallway. And comes Rihanna and like the record label reps, and she just walks right past me. She just looked like a cute girl. Didn't think anything of it, and she walks into the office of the music director that was my mentor, Albie D.
Oh, wow.
And she sits down with him, and I think she handed him a CD, and she starts playing the CD because, you know, they're pitching the radio station on her song. And all of a sudden, from down the hall, I hear the beat, and I hear boom, choo, boom, choo, boom, choo, boom, choo, boom, 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 choo, boom. You know, Mr. DJ, come song on the replay. Mr. DJ, when you
Oh
turn the
man,
music
that's
up.
such a great
So
song.
I hear this song,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear the beat. I'm like, wait. I said, that's dancehall. I'm like, that's a dancehall song. So I start, you know, kind of poking around. I start walking past his office, like, because I want to hear what's going on. I'm like, I was like, this girl just walked in. It's a pop radio station, mind you. So I'm not ready to hear someone pitching a dancehall song to a pop station. And, you know, after her time with him was over, they got up and left, and they left a stack of promo CDs, and they handed me one of the CDs, and it was the CD single of Ponda Replay. And I was like, who is this girl? He was like, oh, some girl from Barbados. Jay-Z's going to sign her. You know, and it was just like, she was a girl, you know, just some girl from Barbados.
Wow. So she was just starting out, like right when you saw her in there.
And I was so excited because, you know, just being Caribbean, being West Indian, the thought that someone from the West Indies was going to be on a pop radio station, hopefully, was just great. I was just so thrilled. I was like, yes. Us. And I was rooting for her, and the song got added and it became a massive hit. Fast forward another year later, or a couple more years later, I end up in Cleveland, Ohio at 96.5 KISS Cleveland, and I'm at the Cuyahoga County Fair. The Cuyahoga County is the county where Cleveland, Ohio is. So I'm at the county fair. No, I got to wheel it back. Rihanna starts to kind of bubble a little bit. You know, she's getting some hit songs. And I had a connection with a clothing company out of Jamaica called Kuya Clothing. I had met them through, man, this is crazy. These stories, like, just watching my own stories in my head, are kind of freaking me out. How detailed do I want to tell the story? Anyway, there's a sound system out of Jamaica called King Tubby's Sound. It's basically like a production and sound crew. And this is like real foundation reggae and dancehall dub music. And while I was living in DC, I had met the nephew of the King Tubby, who was one of the greatest sound man out of Jamaica ever.
Yeah.
His name is Digital K, Keith. This was King Tubby's actual nephew. And he had told me about a friend of his in Jamaica who started a clothing company. And he was like, yo, JNIICE, your brother, you need to link with them one day, and then you need to link with them because these people are starting, you know, they're doing Jamaican clothing, dancehall clothing. You're a Jamaican, you need to represent for them. It's like, yeah, of course. So I started this relationship with this clothing company very early on. Anyway, the sad story is that Keith actually died.
Oh, wow.
So I was very glad to have met him and be a part of, you know, small part of that legacy, just to know it a little bit. But I had this link with this clothing company. And when I heard that Rihanna was coming to the Cuyahoga County Fair, I told this clothing company, I said, we have to give Rihanna, she's a Bayesian artist. She's this girl. She's coming up. When she comes to the county fair to perform, I have to give her something special. So what they did, they made these T-shirts that had the white T-shirts with a blue collar and a blue, like, kind of arms. And they were the colors of Barbados. And on the front of the T-shirts, I think the Barbados, if I'm not mistaken, their area code is 868. Someone could
oh, my mom's beige. She's not in here, but she's Bayesian.
She's
too,
Bayesian.
so
Yeah,
I think be freaking out you talking about her.
I'm pretty sure they're no, maybe Trinidad is 868. I forget. Whatever the Barbados area code is, it had the area code of Barbados, but then it had it in the Bayesian colors with the trident on.
Oh, nice.
So they made these T-shirts for me, and they said, give Rihanna, this is our new T-shirt that we're doing with these area codes for each island. So when Rihanna, after her performance, she got off stage, 246. Yeah, thank you. She got off stage, and I gave her the box. I was like, hey, I have a box for you from Kuya Clothing Company. And she's like, what is it? And she opens it, and it's the shirt. She's like, oh my gosh, they're Bayesian shirts. I was like, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And we took a picture, and it's a picture that I'll throw up on Instagram every now and then. It's a picture of me in a Jamaican jacket and her, and just like a cut off, like a tank top. And she had like a chain that wasn't even real gold. She was just a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a girl. We were two kids. I
Wow.
was a radio DJ. She was a kid just working in the music industry. And today we find out that Rihanna is the biggest billionaire, the youngest
Crazy.
billionaire on earth. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I have so many, Honey Flo, I have so many stories like this where I've seen people go from nothing to amazing. And I think it's my favorite part of my career is not even the things I did, it's the
Mhm.
things I've watched people do.
Mhm. That's
That
amazing.
that
Yeah.
that's my answer to that.
And to be playing artists that, yeah, you've seen their growth, right? Like, they were probably a nobody before. I remember playing Jill Scott or like,
Yeah.
trying to think, Anthony Hamilton, some of these guys, soul artists that no one knew of before, and then all of a sudden, India Arie, and they're just, like, struggling, like artists that loved music, like, they just,
Yeah.
when they go in these, I don't know if you're familiar with Atlanta, but Apache Cafe,
Oh yeah,
some of these,
I've heard of
yeah,
that
those
cafe.
small,
Yeah.
spots, and,
Yeah.
you bring your little Marantz, like, back in the day, this little box with a
Sure, the
recorder,
Marantz box.
stick it.
You're true school. That's what's
Oh,
up. You know
man.
about the Marantz
Yeah,
box.
I'm a
That's
little
hot.
old school. Yeah, I do like the Marantzes, so I remember sticking on top of a garbage can trying to interview people with a mic, and it's crazy to see some of these artists, like, even poets too, not just musicians, but, I
Yeah.
don't know if you heard of Rudy Francisco, he got signed on by Jay-Z.
Okay.
He's a massive poet, like, he got on, Jimmy Fallon's show. I just remember meeting him randomly at Apache Cafe, and he was a struggling artist that loved poetry, and I was someone that loved music, and you just collided and had a great interview, right?
I
But I
went
can
I,
relate to what you're saying,
I went to a
with that.
club called 2K9 in Washington D.C.
Mhm.
and it was Kanye West doing the college dropout tour. It was like literally a college tour. He went to the college campuses and did shows. And I was talking to this girl in the club, and
Mhm.
John Legend came by and started talking to her, and she wanted to talk to John Legend instead of
Oh,
me.
no.
And it was just like he wasn't really the John Legend that we know of today. He was just a dude that was, backup singing for Kanye or writing with Kanye, and he was there, accompanying Kanye. But now
Wow.
he's the John Legend with Chrissy Teigen and stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a plethora of stories like that, and I just feel like I am super blessed. And I know it sounds corny. I don't know if you want to call it luck or just I've lived a very untraditional life, and I've got
Mhm.
more stories than I can count, just like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I think it's good, like, yeah, you just never know what life's gonna bring and who you're gonna meet, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think the moral of the story too is you should never underestimate anyone because you never know what they're gonna become. But even becoming that or having a million following, like, what does that mean? To me, I don't know, that doesn't mean as much, like, whether you're here or
mhm,
there, like, we view that a lot on social media based on your following or what you have or all these things, what success is. But
yeah.
I always appreciate those hungry, struggling artists at a little small hole in the wall cafe like Apache Cafe, and you're meeting them and they have such a passion and they could just jam, and and they love music just as much as you do. And they still remain true to that, I think, even with all their success, right?
No
Over the
doubt.
years. So,
I appreciate anyone who's fueled by passion. Like
mhm,
I have like a weird attraction to passion. I just love to see someone who's like driven by an intangible thing.
mhm.
It's emotional for me because like I have it too. Like I feel it and I understand it.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you ever been nervous interviewing anyone or meeting
Oh yeah.
anyone?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
who would you say that?
I'm
And have you also ever fangirled anyone
did both
either?
of those things just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Like I interviewed Cedella Marley, who is
Oh,
Bob
okay.
Marley's first
Wow.
child
Yeah, I
daughter.
saw that. I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was completely very, very nervous to for that interview because, one of my earliest memories in life is just, waking up in the morning in my house in New York, and the house is literally shaking like
Mhm.
because my dad is downstairs in the basement with his brethren them and playing music, and having a little session, and it's Bob Marley. Like you hear the bass of Bob Marley music, and before I could even know what I was or who I was, I just knew that the music of the Marleys was very important to my
Mhm.
family. I didn't even
Mhm.
really understand why, or there were big posters in our basement where my dad's DJ equipment was, a big Bob Marley poster of
Mhm.
him playing his guitar, his head back like this. Um, and it's just one of the first memories I have of in life. reggae music, Bob Marley's music, watching my dad cassette tapes, and they'd be Bob Marley concerts. I'd walk past his room and he'd be watching Bob Marley on TV. So interviewing his daughter, like literal like offspring, not even a generation, like the next of kin from Bob Marley, was really, really emotional for me, because I you know, you want to do an interview where the listener gets something from it and it's not self-indulgent, but there, which I wanted to say for me, you know, for me personally to this person, and I tried to figure out how to ride that line between this is me fangirling over you or fanboying over you, or this is me doing an interview that, you know, the listener can, you know, learn some valuable information about what you're promoting and who you are. Trying to ride that line, but be authentic at the same time. So I was very nervous. I was extremely nervous to interview. I was like trembling before the
Wow,
interview started.
interesting. That's pretty cool because you have a lot of experience with a lot of different artists, and it just shows that you're human too. And I appreciate that. Mystic Mountain Show, how you doing? Everyone that's come in the building, I appreciate you guys. I'm trying to not have my eyeballs too much on the chat today, so don't mind me. You'll see my eyeballs shifting. I'm looking at another laptop here, a phone, and the chat right over here. But I'm trying to concentrate, you know, look at Jamar so he doesn't think I'm crazy. I
No,
got a
you're all
lazy
good.
eye,
You're,
you
you're
know?
all no, you're all good. Do
Yeah.
whatever you want. I saw the question that Mystic Mountain asked.
Yes. So he asked that. It was first in, and that's what he's talking about. It was first stop in North America was Toronto. I definitely want to go to the Marley Museum. So that's what you're talking about right now,
Well,
right?
the
That you went
exhibit,
to?
yeah, the Bob Marley experience is the first stop here in North America in Toronto, which
Mhm.
is incredible. I
Yeah.
think Mystic Mountain may be asking about the museum in Jamaica,
Oh,
which
okay.
is
Yep.
actually the home of Bob Marley at 56 Hope Road, right in Kingston, the heart of Kingston, Jamaica. And I've passed it more times than I can count on a hand. I've been in there a bunch of times. It's, you know, I grew up between Jamaica and New York, so we were in Jamaica a lot, like all the time, and it's just a place that you see every day when you're driving through town. It's just right
Mhm.
there, Bob Marley Museum. But I've been there a bunch of times, and nonetheless incredible to, you know, see the physical monuments of a giant.
Yeah.
It's all there, and also there's a Tough Gone Studios on the other side of town in Jamaica, kind of near to the wharf, near, I think it's near near, not Port Royal, it's near to Portmore, but it's actually the actual studio facility, Tough Gong Studios, of Bob Marley. I've been in there too, and that's a very incredible experience, seeing like his actual studio space, his rehearsal space, seeing his you know, you're seeing his room, you're seeing his speaker boxes.
Mhm.
You see the record presses, the actual vinyl pressing machines that Bob Marley said we have to press our own records
Oh, that's
right here in
amazing.
Jamaica. I saw
Wow.
all of that. Yeah, so I've been lucky to experience all that stuff.
I'm assuming you went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland too when you lived because I thought
What
that
a
was good.
shame, eh? Like,
You
let me
didn't
tell you
like it?
something.
Really?
No, no, no. I never went to the Rock
Oh, you
Hall of
never
Fame.
went? How
I am
could you
so
not
ashamed of
go?
that. I lived in
What?
Cleveland for a year.
Oh,
I,
man.
I lived on the west side of Cleveland in a place called Lakewood,
Mhm.
at a building called the Carlisle. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is right there on the lake, right by Brown Stadium. Passed it every day on my way to work. Never went in.
I can't believe you never went in being a music lover. Like, everything
Yo,
you're talking about Bob Marley is pretty much there in
yo,
the
and I
Rock and
don't
Roll
even know
Hall of
when I'll
Fame.
make it to
Yeah,
Cleveland
they
again.
had,
It's just
like,
like,
and it wasn't just rock, it was, like, the progression of all music, like gospel, rock, 50s, like the 19th century, all the way up hip hop. They had Biggie Smalls memorabilia
oh,
in
don't tell
there,
me that.
Puffy, like, just
Yeah.
everyone. It
I,
was
I'll
incredible.
have to make it back to Cleveland for a special trip just for that. But it's such a shame. I lived there and never went into the
You
Rock and
can
Roll Hall
just
of Fame.
drive. It only takes about 5 hours, I guess, to drive,
From
you
here?
know? Yeah, I mean, if you speed like me, maybe 4 hours, so
Is Cleveland only 4 hours from here? Really?
well, I was speeding, so
Okay.
I made
All
it there
right.
in 4 hours. But
All
yeah,
right.
you should definitely if you are a music lover, I
Yeah.
tell everyone they need to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, it is I think I spent, like, 7 hours in there. It was unbelievable, like, just how much
You've
they have.
inspired me, Honey Flo. You've
Yeah.
inspired me. I'm gonna make that a trip. I'm very, very ashamed that I never went there.
Yeah, so you should definitely do that. So, if you guys, wow, I can't believe an hour has already gone by. I'm only at my sixth question, and I think I have about 40 for you. So,
I'll
I
try to speed up the answers a little bit.
no,
I
no, no.
apologize.
This is okay. No, I love it. I love it. If not, I'm definitely going to bring you on again. But I'm curious also, and I know I'm going so much into your radio experience just because
Sure.
I love radio so much that
Sure.
I'm like, I need to start with this first. But I don't know if you guys know, but he does a lot more. It's not just radio. He's DJing. This guy is like, I feel like he's freaking from Love Jones or something. You know how Lorenz Tate does everything? Like he's a
That's
poet,
funny.
he's
That's one of my
whatever,
favorite
could be a
movies.
singer.
That's funny that you said
Like
that. That
he
that
rides a
soundtrack
bike, he
that
does
soundtrack
this.
is incredible. Incredible
Yeah.
soundtrack.
No, it is. But I find it funny because like, when you watch Love Jones, you think of this guy that does everything. Like there's nothing he can't do. Like he could
Right.
probably sing, do poetry, he could draw, he can do lovers rock, he can dance. Like what can't this guy do? So basically when I was looking you up, I'm like, is there anything you can't do? Like really? Like he DJs, he, also does tours, has been in so many different cities and is a really great DJ. Yeah, Roman says his acting as well. And then he skydives. We're going to get into that a bit later, but diving, he does soccer, he swims with sharks. Like, he plays what was it? I think saxophone and guitar. So what? He's like a Jamaican Kenny G as well. It's like, how much does he do anything? Do you ever have a bad day? Like, anyway, so
Oh
um
wow, what a
so
question. Do I ever have a bad
I'm
day?
just joking.
Many bad days.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have two bad days in one day.
No,
Like
aw,
sometimes it's like a multiple bad day. It's like
aw.
no.
No,
I,
but I just find it funny because not funny, but I think it's cool because there's so many different things that you do, and you don't really, it's very rare that you see that. But I will ask you, going back to radio still, because I'm still very interested in all your radio experience. There
Mhm.
is someone in here actually that worked for the Marilyn Dennis show as well.
Okay.
I'd have to scroll up. Her name's Christine. Anyways, I don't know if I could find her if she's still tuned in. If you are, Christine, definitely shoot us a message in the chat. But she did various things for the show and for CBC as well.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if you've ever met her. Her name's Christine, but that was a little while ago.
Yeah, the the
Um,
the, the Marilyn Dennis TV show and the
mhm.
Marilyn Dennis and Jamar radio show are
Are
like
different, two separate. Yeah.
they're literally in two different buildings, so I don't
Yeah,
really
for
have a
sure.
whole lot of
I can't
interaction
remember. I can't remember if it
with
was
them
on
over
the
there.
radio side or the TV side, but I know it was, I'm pretty sure it was the radio side, but I'd have to follow up with her if she's still listening.
Okay.
But big shout out to you, Christine, too, doing big things in media as well. But was there, now that we've talked about like all these great things you've done in radio, do you ever remember like a worse memory being on air? Was there anything that's happened to you? I'm sure there has, being on radio.
Um, Not really, to be honest with you.
Really?
Nothing terrible. I mean,
Or maybe embarrassing? Maybe I'll say that.
embarrassing.
Is there anything embarrassing that
I
happened?
when I was in Chicago, sometime like I was in Chicago for 10 years, and somewhere in the middle of my stay there, I had this like I had a psychic on the radio.
Oh.
I just got, I don't know why, I was trying to do a segment, and I had a relationship with this psychic who was out of Arizona, and I had him on the air, and I convinced the program director, who was severely against it. He was like, no way, no psychics, they suck. I said,
Yeah.
no man, this dude's
Oh,
cool,
wow.
man. He can relate to people. Like, let me put him on.
Mhm.
And maybe you believe in that stuff, maybe you don't. I don't know the nature of it. I'm entertained by it. That's really it.
Hmm.
So he gets on the air, and we get some listeners to call in and ask for, he says he's gonna tell their fortune or whatever the hell he's gonna say, and he
Mhm.
starts telling him about himself. He goes, "Okay, are you having man problems?" And the lady's like, "No." And then she's like, okay, well, I could see that you're struggling in the money sector. Where you're gonna get some money in a couple of. She goes, "No, I'm not having any money issues." then, then he said something like, "He's like, well, there's a relative that you miss," and she's like, "No, who's what? And he goes, what's the name of the relative that you're missing? What's the name? And she's like, I don't know. I'm not missing any relatives. So this man starts getting frustrated. He's like, well, you need to go say some prayers because you're probably going to go to hell.
Oh man,
He got like really offended that like the
oh.
bit wasn't going well. And it just, my boss comes running. He goes, get that guy off the air. It was just very funny because he was obviously not a fan of the whole segment. It was pretty embarrassing because it was my idea. That's
Oh
why.
man. Have you
So,
ever had any like crazy, because I heard, being on radio, like whether it's a big radio station or not, you do get people kind of like addicted to your personality. Like it
mm,
doesn't matter how small or how big you are, how big
mhm,
the show is. When you're in front of the camera, it could be kind of like reality TV where
mhm,
some people feel like they could connect with you. So
mhm.
sometimes you get a little bit, you may get some strange people out there, interesting characters. Have you? And I heard, that every radio personality has maybe like a stalker or something crazy. Have you
Mhm.
ever had that being on radio? Like anyone?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had some
Oh, you have?
incidences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've had some incidents. It's I mean, there it's funny, like
Hmm.
sometimes you have people all over the spectrum, and I use that word sort of loosely, but I actually mean it like
Hmm.
mentally. Like you have some people who are just really excited and people who, you actually start forming relationships with people, whether it be on text or just they text you or they message you or they call or whatever, or maybe they come to your events, and that's always cool. But then,
Hmm.
you have some people who take it a little too far.
Hmm.
And there've been moments that I was just like, yo, this person right here is not well. And
Hmm.
they are showing up to everything I do. There's a particular person I'm thinking of right now who she showed up to, like, I used to play kind of like amateur semi-pro soccer when I
Hmm.
was in Chicago. And I just made the mistake of mentioning, that I was having a game that weekend. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be. So she came to one of the games and like made a scene. And then, she'd come to an event. She came to one event once and like literally came into the bathroom and used the bathroom with the door open in front of
Oh
everybody.
my gosh, that's crazy.
I did an
Wow.
event at a, those golf putting ranges or those driving
Hmm.
ranges. She came, walked in, and like came to my table and just put her hand in the guacamole and just started eating in front of
Oh
her.
my
It was,
gosh.
and
Yeah,
then like,
that's a little crazy. That's a
yeah,
little
like
like,
this particular person was literally an issue in Chicago for many years for me.
oh wow, that's
And
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
crazy was the word.
That's
And
why people need to understand too, for people that don't know, especially on radio, all radio outlets, especially in Toronto, they don't let anyone in. Like they don't let anyone just knock on the door and you open up the door because of situations like this. So not everyone realizes that you do become a bit of like a what is it, like a reality TV type of, star in a sense. So you do have to be careful in media, and there has to be like a little bit of a disconnect, right? So you'll
yeah,
never see a media channel just like open up a door freely and just allow someone in like
and also
the
I gotta say,
studio.
like back, I mean, it's not even too long ago, but I think the conversation would be different now because when you're a man, and like
Hmm.
maybe just like even 5 years ago, you're a man, you try to tell someone's stalking you, people look at you like you're like, man, dog, what are you
Hmm.
talking about? You're not being stalked. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I actually have an issue right here that like, and I'm feeling a little bit unsafe or just I'm feeling paranoid, you
Hmm.
know. So that was an issue, where I felt like if even if I complained or said something, I wouldn't have been supported.
Hmm.
And you don't hear people say that too much because that's usually like a thing that you hear women talking about.
Yeah, for sure. You
But
don't really
like,
hear too many guys talk about that as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was an issue. I've had a couple things that have happened through my career that were not really fun. They were actually kind of what's the word? Sad and hurtful and even kind of made me a bit paranoid. People, I'm semi-active on social media, but I've really pulled it back a lot
Hmm.
just because people can take advantage of you. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I
People,
hear that, especially if you're an open book. Like you strike me as someone that's open to people. So the more you share about yourself, the more people might feel a
yeah,
little bit more connected to
I
that as well.
honestly, my bottom line isn't made on social media personally. Like my bottom line is the radio ratings. You know what I'm saying? As long as the ratings are cool, social media is just like a icing on the cake. So,
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
I try to just make the show the best it is. And, you know,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So what actually I'm curious too that we did touch base earlier on when you were talking about Toronto and how you used to come down for Caravana, but
Hmm.
what made you decide to just come to Toronto? Did you and how did CHUM 1045 with Marilyn Dennis, how did that happen actually?
Well, at the end of my 10 years in Chicago, we had decided that, my needs and the station's needs at that point were different. And it was a good time to, amicably, and I say that amicably part ways. I still love everyone at B96 and the management there and the staff and the company. I still talk to those guys. My old boss will text every now and then. So it was a really amicable departure. It was nice. We were just like, hey, this is a good part. This is a good time to kind of go in a different direction. I said, yeah, I believe so too. So at that point, radio is a very, very small industry. Man, radio is
Mhm.
almost like a mom and pop industry. So it was known in the industry that I was essentially a free agent and I was kind of just, free to do whatever I want or, looking for a new opportunity. And Chum basically said, hey, we're doing this thing in Toronto that maybe you'd be interested in. And, I didn't know anything of Chum 1045, but I
Hmm.
know the city of Toronto. So I was like, yeah, of course, whatever's happening in Toronto, I would love to be a part of that. And then, as I did my research and realized, what Chum and Bell Media was, I was like, oh, this is something that is a really is a blessing actually.
Hmm.
It's a blessing, not more than an opportunity, but it's a really good move, career wise, because it's a major radio station, a massive company in this country, and a chance to be on a platform where I could actually connect and level up.
Now it sounds like so then they scouted you then pretty much.
Yeah, I think there was a
Wow.
mutual conversation between people in the radio talent industry that were like, "Hey, um, is Jay interested in Toronto? Or would he move to would he move to Canada?" And like, "Yeah, would he? What was the station?" And we kind of just went back and forth and talked about it, and it just it was a very easy decision for both parties. We both said, "Hey,
Awesome.
this will work."
So, Caravana, are you in the parade? Do you have like a costume and everything? I could see you maybe
Yeah,
doing that.
I've actually never played mass. I've never worn a
No?
costume for Caravana, but I'm always there, and I will be playing on the truck with Carnival Nations as I have been since the day I arrived here. Carnival
Mhm.
Nations, the band leader, Bryce, actually heard me on the radio on some of my first shows and reached out to me immediately, and I really rate him for that, because like he heard me on the radio. He understood that I was a Jamaican American coming to Canada and was like, "Yo, there's a Jamaican on Chum." And he
Mhm.
reached out to me. He texted the radio station and was like, "Hey, man, welcome to the country. Welcome to the city. Come be part of this band of Carnival Nations." And
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
we've had a wonderful relationship ever since. So I play with them. I DJ for them every year.
And I think it's well needed. I'm so happy to see that, I think diversity and just having other cultures, because that's what Toronto is like, the whole city. Like, I feel like we still need that a lot more in media, not just on certain stations, but I was happy to see that on Chum, like more people coming on board that are, different cultures, ethnicities. I think that's really, really important because that is what demonstrates what Toronto truly is, And I still feel like we need that in media. Like when I look at
100%.
CBC, CTV, and I feel like I don't know, this is just my opinion, but I feel like it's far worse when you live in a smaller place like Winnipeg or different. I was shocked. I nearly fell over when I saw a Jamaican like on. I've never seen that in how many years I've been alive. Like you would see only a certain specific type of look in media, especially out west.
Wow.
It'd be more predominantly like blonde hair, blue eyes, nothing wrong with that. But like you wouldn't see diversity or culture at
Well,
all. And
I'm not to correct you, but I do think there's something wrong with like if you're in a city that looks a certain way,
mhm,
and if you're in media, which is supposed to kind of reflect the views and opinions of your society, like it's just dishonest, really. At the end of the
mhm,
day, if I mean, to a point, there's certain formats that, it's going to be what it is. I guess I'm thinking about country music and maybe like, but realistically, these days, everyone's into everything, especially in cities like Toronto. Your
Yeah.
staff has to look somewhat like your city,
Yeah, for
or else you're
sure.
just not, or unless you're just not, unless you just don't want to be honest about what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that diversity is just really honesty at the end of the day about
Hmm.
what this city is, and you don't have to pander to people's, you don't have to have one Indian guy, one black guy.
Yeah,
You don't have to
for
do
sure.
that,
Yeah.
but at least show that there's a connection with who's on this radio station and what's happening in the real world.
Hmm.
So that's what I think. I think it's very important, actually.
Yeah, because I feel like it reaches further as well, but I still feel like we still have more to go. Like, that's just my opinion from what I see in smaller cities in Canada. I know we
Mm.
always promote and say, diversity and all these great things, but being on both sides, I sometimes I wonder, is it really diverse? Because we still have those quotas, like in the corporate world, for example, like,
Yeah.
okay, we need one or two, like you said, someone that's Aboriginal or someone that's, Black or someone that's, Spanish or what have you. But yeah, I would like to see far more.
Well, the final frontier really is power, positions of
Mhm,
power,
mhm,
because at that point, then you have the ability to make decisions, real decisions that affect real people. Like just in the music space, if you don't have people in positions of power, I mean, it's great to have your DJ, or your
mhm,
morning show host who just essentially is a talking head. But if you don't have somebody in positions of power who knows what the city is about and makes decisions about music and programming based on what the real population is like, then you got a problem, because then like, what are we really playing, and who are we playing to, and why? You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And hiring practices, when you have positions of power, you have people who have the ability to look at folks and look past, let me not say look past, but the ability to consider folks who ought, usually wouldn't be considered.
Mhm.
It's no secret that in North America, the majority, what they call the majority, or the power structure, is mostly white European.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we just do what we, maybe it's not racism, but maybe it's just habit. We just go with what we know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need somebody to have a different perspective to bring in people from that perspective as well.
So true. I love your chemistry. Like when I listen to the podcast and listen to you and Marilyn Dennis and your other, the other girl there as well. Like I just
Mm.
love the chemistry you guys have together.
Caitlin,
Yes,
yeah, our,
like
our trending reporter, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's really cool. Just, different ages, different stages of people. And usually in Toronto, from what I've seen, it's usually kind of the same people I've seen over the years that keep getting in. They'll do multiple shows if it's the social, and then all of a sudden I see them on Entertainment Tonight and I see them like on different, like they're all kind of the same people, but it's also good to try newer people. So it's refreshing to see you on there,
Well, if I might
Um,
speak for myself or on my own behalf, I
mhm.
think what happened on our show is really a great case study. And like, you know, I felt like when I got hired and when I got here, a lot of people thought that it was like a risk, like, oh,
Mhm,
this is a risky move. Like, you brought
mhm,
this guy who's, from America and black and super young, and like you
mhm,
put him together with America, like, wow, how is this gonna turn out? And it's like, it's not really a risk. Like,
mhm, mhm.
I'm a person. I interact with people every day, so
Yeah, for sure.
just
Well, I think
let
yeah,
people do what they do, and it'll be what it is. You know what I'm saying?
mhm. It's true, yeah, I think people probably I'm just trying to play the other side, like, thinking
Yeah,
how they would think. I
yeah,
think just as an outsider looking in, I think
mhm,
they may think that because they've never seen, say, like, Marilyn Dennis with, other co-hosts well, at least I don't know if I really
sure.
have, like, on her talk show or on different things like that, so,
Mhm.
mixing it up and doing something different, I think, is really great, and it brings different perspectives, which you need, so I think that's really good. Do you when you came here, do you think just like I find it interesting because usually, a lot of Canadians and media, they'll move to the States. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear your perspective coming from the US to here. Like, do you find that it's really competitive here in Toronto? Or I know your situation was a bit different because it sounded like they're kind of scouting you and it just worked out.
Mhm.
But being here now, how would you say media is here in Toronto compared to, say, New York or Chicago, other places you've been?
I think Toronto is just as competitive as some of the major cities,
Hmm.
and in some aspects, maybe even a little more competitive, because there's a lot less property around. Like when you talk about media companies, I mean, there's really two big ones here.
Yes,
You
yeah.
got Rogers and Bell,
Bell,
and then you
yeah.
have some other ones. You've got Stingray and these other, but the two big players in town, just from dollars and cents and infrastructure, is Bell and Rogers. And if you're from Toronto and you really don't have aspirations to leave this city, there are not many. I mean, you're talking about two companies that you can work for. Only two,
Hmm.
not only two, but like,
Yeah, they
like,
own all the channels pretty much, right?
right. So it's like that makes the pie so much smaller. So
Hmm.
it really makes it difficult. So when someone loses a job or a station flips formats, it's like, you know, and it's even harder because this is the number one market. This is the largest market in the country. So it's like not many people really want to move to other cities in Canada if you're from here. It's different.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
if you're from Vancouver, you may, aspire to come to Canada, or excuse me, Toronto, but you may not. But
Hmm.
it's probably low on your list of things to do if you're from Toronto to move to Kitchener, or to move to, you know, name the city. So in that respect, it's much more competitive in all aspects, not even just being on the radio, just being a street DJ, just being a
Hmm.
party DJ. That's like, this is it. And it's one of those cities that it seems like in our industry, there's not a whole lot of movement, where it's like a lot of the same people have been here doing it for many, many, many years. And I can't blame them. Like, it's the biggest city and this is your country, this is your city. Why would you leave?
Hmm.
So it makes it that much more competitive. So I think in a way, it's a bit more competitive.
Yeah. And do you feel like people work together out here from what you see, like being an outsider coming in? Or do you feel like that could also improve? Or do you like, say, DJs, for example? Do you
Yeah,
feel
you know
like
what?
we work
I
together? Or
think
do you think
people
it's
here.
more?
I'll tell you
Mhm,
the analogy that plays in my head. I
mhm,
feel like, and I know I've been here for 4 years. Two of them are pandemic years, so they're write-offs to me. But I almost feel like I got to school on the first day of school, but I came in during lunch period, and
mhm.
everyone's already at their tables. And I'm just like, hey, like,
Interesting.
that's what it feels like. I'm just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
what table am I gonna sit at? Like, and big respect to everybody. I think people here actually do work together. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people have like really deep connections that they've had for years and years and years. I mean, as they say in Toronto, we've been mans from time. You know what I'm saying? Like, people
Mhm.
been in like here grinding, hustling, working together, whatever little beefs and backstories. These are things that have happened through years and years and years, and people have formed their connections. And I'm still forming my connections. I'm a 4-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's really, I'm relatively unknown, I'm fine with that. It's been kind of like the through line of my career. So
Yeah. I love that you said that, because I can really relate to what you just said,
yeah,
being at that lunch table. You're like, "Oh, can I sit beside you at that lunch table?" And
yeah, and
you're
and
still
and
trying to figure out what that table is, and sometimes I think if you're a big visionary, which it sounds like you are,
I am.
sometimes you gotta sit at that table alone, and you gotta, like, grind and work, and then the right people eventually come to that table,
I do. I
and
do.
give you your cheese sandwich.
This is the subject of my therapy sessions. Why
Yeah.
am I by myself?
Aw,
Like,
I
no.
know. They always say it's lonely up on top, and it can be. Like, if you're a visionary and you have a big dream, I really believe that the biggest things that come to you is usually when you're working alone. It's not when you're working with your friends or family or people. But eventually, the amazing thing is it can be lonely a little bit, like on a stage or something, but
Yeah.
eventually you'll meet the right people that come in, even if it's one person,
Yeah.
and maybe they may just be in your life for a season, to teach you something, and then they leave, and then you meet more people.
But I got to say also that I really respect relationships. Like, I understand that people have really, like, you don't know what people are talking about and discussing in their
Mhm.
in their private time, the relationship building that's happening between people, the things they're struggling together with, the problems they're solving together. So, like, I don't have that real, I haven't solved any problems with anybody here necessarily, except, my radio cohorts, which we're doing great together.
Mhm.
So in terms of working with people in town, I actually really respect the fact that, like, to have those connections, it really takes time and you have to go through stuff together. And if we don't have that yet, it's cool. We will get
Mhm.
there. Hopefully, maybe we won't. We don't have to. But I respect the fact that there are people here who have gone through things together and had wins and losses together, and because of that, they decide to stay together. And it's no hate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I get it. That and
Yeah.
that's a whole different career experience. I didn't have the experience where I've sat in a city and slugged it out for 20 something odd years. That's not my
Mhm.
experience. My experience is
Mhm.
like I've been hopping from town to town every couple of years, and put another win on the chart and going somewhere else, and throwing another one on the resume, go somewhere else, and that's a different experience. So it's a choose your own adventure book, and I respect the experience of the people who have those bonds for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like you are building bonds with people on Twitch too. It sounds like you really got a good crew of people and Twitch family behind you from what
Yeah,
I've seen.
let me tell you something. The people that you see in this chat right here
Mhm.
are some of the most beautiful people I've ever encountered in my life. Like, beautiful people who, like, honestly, when we all got together, the usual suspects, I don't know how many of you knew each other before our Twitch family, if you will, but essentially it was a group of random people who just decided to poke around and try to find some cool music that they liked, and
Mhm.
now we're like a big friend group. It is
Yeah, that's so
it's
awesome.
mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
I gotta come out to it looks like you guys have so much fun. I know Kat Hepburn, love her, she's awesome, has been inviting me out to your Twitch meetup, so I hope to, definitely come to the next one or the one
Yeah, yo,
after.
come through
Check
for
it
sure.
out,
You'll love
Queen
it.
Street, right? You do,
Yeah,
food what is it called? Music, food, art?
which stands for
Fam.
Food Art Music. It's at
Yeah.
566 Queen West. Our big link up is happening on the 15th, and yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna
So
be
make sure
really.
you guys come through. I'm gonna try. I'm DJing actually Nordstrom's that day, so it's gonna be like a long 8-hour day. So if my back can hold up, then I'm definitely gonna be driving out there and
Girl, you got to
uh,
get one of them pads to stand on. One of
I
those.
do.
Do you have one?
Actually, I do. I bought one from Costco, one of those Martha Stewart
I
mats.
got the same one.
Yeah. Oh, you got
I
but then
got
I
this.
have to get runners that are like this thick. Like
Yeah.
literally, I'm like a granny. I'm
Yo,
sorry. When I
people don't
DJ,
understand
they don't
DJing.
understand.
It's hard
Yeah.
on the body, right?
It is hard on the body. I did 2 gigs in 1 day and it took me 2 days to recover. I'm not even kidding you.
Yeah.
So it just makes me think I'm not as young as I was before and I need to get a trainer. Like I need to get my back
Honey
straight and in
flow.
shape.
Nobody is young as they were before. Literally. No one
Yeah.
is as young as they were yesterday. Don't do that to yourself.
No, no, it's true, it's true, but sometimes you think you can do what you did in your 20s, and then you're like, "Ooh, man, I'm feeling this." Like, I'm too afraid to go for a bike ride right now because I have a wedding this weekend and a gym and, Canadian brew house or something, like 3 back-to-back gigs. So, we're not as in shape as you, JNIICE, Jamar, okay?
I'm in all right shape.
We're not as in shape as you, so
I'm
we
a,
can't do one-handed push-ups, so maybe
I,
you
I
can, but we can't.
I can do like 2 or 3 of them. I'm all right.
I'm just joking. So we got hey, Miss Tiffstar in the building. Great to see you. She says, jumping in to say hello. I'm lurking, but not twerking. She's probably
Big up.
twerking. She's awesome. From Cali, we
That's
got
what's up.
Denise in the building,
What's
Lady
up,
Sue.
Denise?
Great to see you.
Lady
Been with us
Sue.
for a while. Miss Diva Arts, everyone else that's come through. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming, to this conversation today on the Honey Flow Talk Show. It's been great. There's so many more questions I want to ask too. So we're definitely getting to them. But yeah, the radio is just so fascinating to me as well. One other thing I will ask you about that, going back to that, is what advice would you give people that really want to get in radio, or what advice would you give out here for them? Because you've been doing it for a while, just
So
to encourage them.
the advice I would have given 10 years ago is completely different than the advice I'd give now. 10 years ago,
Mhm.
I'd say you need to find a radio station, do anything they want you to do, like wash tables, drive trucks, do anything, and just start learning the business and get inside and try to, get a foot in the door.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that that's still valid advice, but you could also do other things like what we're doing right now. You can start a show on Twitch. You can start a show on YouTube. You could start a show on Instagram, and you can build a following and then use that as your currency when you talk to radio stations and ask to, to be a part of their crew. Say, listen, this is what I've done. Here's some of my footage. Here's some of the shows I've done. This is my following. And, is there an opportunity for me to do what I do on these platforms, on your platform? Because now it's all the same. Back when I started, there was nowhere else to do a radio show except, maybe your college radio station or the local radio station in town. Now you can do a talk show on Twitch and show that, you have the ability to talk to an audience, keep an audience, be topical, be funny, be, talk about things top of mind. The business and the mechanics are a bit different because on radio, the metrics are ratings. So you have to have the ability to, keep an audience for a certain amount of time. And, what's the word? To respect the music and all those things. So, that part is a certain skill that you have to learn as well. But, you can show if there's someone like a program director that sees what you do and they say, this person actually, they check a box that we need to check. This actually might work. Yeah, then, you can get started now. That wasn't the case when I was starting, when I was in radio. The other advice I would say is, just like we were talking about earlier, you cast a bigger net by being not afraid to move, and it's tough for people from Toronto. It's tough for people from New York. It's tough for people from Chicago. It's tough for people from these big cities where these are the cities that you should aspire to be at when you're at the top of your career. When you start in those cities, it makes, if you live in LA, you don't necessarily want to move to St. Louis, which is not a small city. You know what I'm saying? And if you're from LA, born and raised, you definitely don't want to go to Mobile, Alabama to get your first job or go to Richmond, Virginia, right? But
True.
But how many hip hop stations are in each city? Toronto has like a half a hip hop station, right?
Exactly.
New York has like 3-4 of them, and all the DJs have been there for like 12 plus years, 20 years. So you're not getting their jobs. So if you really want to do this, how are you going to get a job? You got to move.
That's so true. That's very true. That's awesome.
That's kind of been my secret sauce, where it's like, thank goodness I was in Washington, D.C., market number 9, large market, but I wasn't from D.C., so I wasn't afraid to move. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll move. If I had been living in New York, it might not have been the same decision, but I was already in a city that I wasn't from. So, packing up my car and going somewhere else was not a problem.
Yeah, and probably, like, even if it's not an urban station, maybe an urban station is your first pick, right? But sometimes you gotta grind it out, and it could be like a country station. It could be something that you don't really wanna do in a small town, but if
Sure.
it's gonna open up doors for you and people could see your portfolio or your bio, and you also never know who's watching you. Like, even on Twitch, I know people that have gotten stage opportunities and different opportunities just by watching some of your things online. Has that happened to you during the pandemic too, as you build on Twitch and, not just radio, but also as a DJ? Like, has anyone ever looked at your social media and they're like, hey, we actually want to book him?
100%. Like,
Hmm.
I think being on Twitch and just, having the ability to show, I think Twitch actually helped me out here in town, because had it not been for Twitch, I don't know how people would have known that I was a DJ.
Hmm.
Because CHUM wasn't really doing mix shows at the
Yeah.
time. So where else would I have been able to tell someone that I DJ and that I'm into music in that way? Just coming here, being a new guy in town, you're not really going to get club gigs just because there's so many people that DJ, and if you don't have a following, there's really no reason to hire you. So Twitch showed people like, hey, I do this also.
Hmm.
And that turned into opportunities and friendships, business partnerships as well, that can't be. My my Twitch show for New Year's was sponsored by Appleton Rum. They decided to come on and like, yo, we've seen his streams, like we want to be a part of that. So they actually gave me product and paid me to
So awesome.
yeah,
Wow. That's a
yeah,
great
yeah.
opportunity.
The stream I did last week for the Pride Parade was sponsored by those guys right there, Mill Street Brewery,
Oh, wow.
and
Nice. Yeah.
part of the sponsorship was they wanted to be seen during the stream. So, I had the products placed during the stream. So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, you never
yo, big
know.
up yourself, Drew. What's up?
Yeah, I think you do the best. Don't tell the other guys this. I'm gonna have Drew on my show in a couple weeks too. Big up to you, DJ Mr. Drew. But don't tell the other guys this. You do the best patois accent, hands down, hands down. Like the other guys, the other guys. I'm sorry. I had DJ Diamond Lee. Is DJ Diamond Lee in here? I love when he does it. I know it's kind of off record, but you did a
That's
little
fun.
earlier on in my show, and I was
Yeah.
like, hey, you got the best one. I had David C. Dennis on from the UK, and he was dropping like British. And then I'm like, okay, yours is probably the best so far.
I mean, I appreciate that, but
Diamond Lee, we gotta give him
I'm
a bit
sure
of work.
Jamaicans would say that I sound like a straight guy that grew up in America. I did grow up in America, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm Jamaican, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit of both of them. You see me? I say it's a little bit.
No,
of
but I
both.
think it's okay. I will say it is the best, but it's my. Have you ever heard Busta Rhymes? I think he was on King of the Dance Hall. Everyone out here was busting out laughing. Like it was all quiet in the theater. Everyone's waiting for Busta to come on. All of a sudden, he breaks out in an accent, and everyone was kicking their seats out here, like
I
laughing
know.
hysterically. I was like, I know he's, that's his background, but it didn't feel right to me.
You did.
I'm
know
like,
what?
I don't know.
I'll say this.
It was funny.
Accents and dialect come in all shapes and sizes, and they're long, they're short, they're wide, they're thin. We're all one people still. You see me?
Yeah. Do you
But
know this?
I
Go
do
ahead.
like the little intricacies. When you hear British Jamaican and you
Oh
hear
yeah, I
American,
love it. Yeah.
even the Toronto Jamaican is its own thing. It
Yeah,
really is.
it's
My
different.
Jamaican chat and patois is not like Toronto
No, it
Jamaican
isn't.
patois. It's different, like
It is
so.
different.
Even when you go to different countries, like in Latin America, when you hear a Spanish person from Spain speak Spanish, it's like it's a little softer. They kind of slur and they do a little tongue thing. And you go
Yeah.
to Puerto Rico, it sounds like someone from New York talking Spanish. Say hola, but when you go to Mexico, it's like oye way, oye way. It's like it's just all the little.
true.
I enjoy the intricacies and the little differences. So I don't know what mine is. Mine is my own thing, but it's me.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, you see, I should have gone you to do it the whole entire time during this interview. That's what we should have done. I should have made you for a whole 2 hours,
All right, I'll tell you a secret. You know what's
Yeah.
hard for me? Speaking Jamaican dialect to non-Jamaicans is hard. It's
Really?
it's actually
Yeah, I
like
thought my friends say that too.
it's difficult. It's difficult for
Aw.
me because
Okay.
and I don't know. I've thought about it a lot and I don't know why. I think it's because you're like actively trying to translate two different, because it's almost like a switch flips in your brain and it's like like a new vocabulary book. And when you're responding to someone who's speaking Jamaican to you, like you don't have to really translate, but then when
Yeah,
you're
it's
talking to
true.
someone who's speaking standard English to you, you're listening to the standard English and then you're responding in your head in standard English and then you're responding in patois. It's just like it's an extra step and it's like weird.
Yeah, no, I
So
get it. My friends, they took me to some it was like a Jamaican comedy show, and
yeah,
they were talking really fast on my Jamaican friends kept interpreting for me. They're like, "Okay," because everyone's laughing and I'm like, "I feel so left out. Like how come I'm not picking it up fast. I have to really really listen." So
yeah,
then they kept interpreting for me and it was like a 5-minute delay laughter. Everyone would be
yeah,
laughing 5 minutes
exactly.
before me. I'm
So
like, "This isn't fun for me. I need to learn so
honestly, all you have to do is just sit and watch a lot of YouTube. You'll probably pick it up.
Or
There's a
dance hall too, I need to
what
learn. I
listen to
didn't
some
realize.
dancehall. There's
Yeah.
actually a YouTube account. There's a Instagram account that I follow. It's called Chat Patois, and it's a guy. I don't know who this person is, but I found them randomly, and it's a guy who's actually making like a patois. What do you call it? Like a book, like a vocabulary book,
Oh,
and like
cool.
like a
Yeah.
learn patois for dummies type of book. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Sometimes I'll
Um,
do Google translation, right? And surprise people,
It's a
like
beautiful
so
language, though.
it is. I
It
love
is
the
one of the most
accent and
beautiful
everything.
funniest, like a joke in standard English and a joke in patois. It hits so much different.
Yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
funny.
I love, and the country is beautiful, like the music, lovers rock, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Dance hall, I need interpretation. I may need to go to you and be like, okay, what am I playing? I just found out what sweet like pumpkin meant. I didn't even know what that was.
oh,
You
really?
know, like on my show, okay, I'm gonna sound like I know nothing, and you guys are all gonna laugh at this.
All
You
right.
know that song? I can't remember. You know how it's like you're sweet like a pumpkin, thick like dumpling. You know that song?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Dumpling. Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm playing it, right? And then I'm asking everyone in my chat, "Hey ladies, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a guy saying you're sweet like a pumpkin or you're thick like a dumpling?" I'm like, "I don't like being called thick. That means fat, and it's not PHAT, it's FAT, like in Toronto, right?" So,
Yeah.
and I've been called that before, so I don't like it. So, anyways, I kept asking all these women, and they're like, "Yeah, honey Flo, we like sweet like pumpkin better, right?" So
Yeah.
then my Jamaican friends are like, "Honey Flo, do you know what sweet like pumpkin means?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's sweet like pumpkin is like she's got a nice personality. Her personality is very sweet. It's sweet like a pumpkin. And guess what? I love pumpkin lattes. I love pumpkin pie. I love everything pumpkin."
Ah, lost in
And they're like,
translation.
yeah, they're like, "Girlfriend, you might want to double check that one. That does not mean sweet like pumpkin. Like
Well,
sweet like pumpkin means something else." And I'm like, "Oh, that's what it
y-
means. I didn't
yes.
know that." So,
So, I don't know how dirty you want your stream to be, but
I keep it pretty PG
okay. Well, everyone, you
on
can go look up
Facebook
what pumpkin
and
is like.
yeah,
Well,
you can look it
pumpkin
up.
is pumpkin. I wanted the nicest thing in the world, man. I
Oh
tell you
my
right now, I
gosh.
wanted the
And I
nicest.
can't believe I was going around thinking it's like pumpkin latte. I'm like, "Oh, that's so sweet. A guy
No
says you're sweet like a
way.
pumpkin."
You ever see a
Actually,
pumpkin? You ever
I
see a
was
pumpkin? How big and
oh
thick it is?
my gosh. I was at a, Jamaican yeah, it was a barbecue, all white party,
Yeah,
and the DJ, and I kept singing the song and dancing to it, and this guy came right from Jamaica, like, maybe a couple weeks prior, right? And
yeah.
he kept laughing at me too. He's like, "Girlfriend, do you know what that means?" I'm like, "Again,
Yo,
it's someone's personality." They're like, "No." Yeah, so the running joke, I gotta learn a little bit better. Like, I grew up with a lot of Jamaicans and a lot of Caribbean people, even in Winnipeg, but,
yes,
like, with dance hall, you know, I'm a bit lost with when it comes to 90s hip hop and R&B, I
yeah.
understand what the translation is, like knocking the boots and that sort of stuff we grew up
I
on,
haven't heard
right?
that in years.
I know. But, like, with
Knocking
dance
boots.
hall, I'm just like, "Dang, wow. They
Yeah, I
really
mean,
said that. They really
dancehall
meant
is,
that. Wow."
Jamaican patois and just street language is all about context, really. Like,
Yeah.
what you have to really just listen to the context to really understand what people are talking about. Because there's some things that you'd be like, how does that even? How are we even talking about this? But it's, if you know the context, then you'll get
Yeah,
it.
that's true, and you would even laugh even harder if you saw me at a dance hall out here, like, you would laugh even harder.
Everyone's welcome, but I would love to see.
Yeah,
I would
I
love to
dance
see.
like Eileen from Seinfeld, like, it's not pretty. Like, I wish I could be like those girls, like, you know, at Caravana, but
Go
hey,
by your head top.
that's just not me. I try. Now
Tick
90s hip
tock,
hop
tick
and
tock.
R&B, yeah, I could dance
Okay.
too, but not I don't know. I just yeah, I saw some things I've never seen before in my life. I'm like, "Wow."
Next time we take you to a dance hall, you have to learn how to do the puppy tail. You know,
I
if you do,
don't
the puppy tail.
no, I don't know what that is. What is
Okay.
exactly is that you're,
You ever
like,
see a
on the
puppy?
ground?
You ever see a puppy walking down the road and you see his tail just a wag
Oh,
like
really?
shaking puppy tail like this? To do the puppy
I don't
tail.
think I can yeah, I don't even think my body moves that way, like that
Yeah, yeah.
being mixed myself, it's not it just the mix I have does not even move that way. It's like
well,
Seinfeld.
we
But
need to that's a good place to start. Start with a puppy tail and see if you can
okay.
do that, and you can move on to like a slow whine or like a tick
Oh,
tock, tick tock.
I can do that. I can
Okay.
do, Lovers Rock. Okay, I could dance to Lovers Rock because that's
Okay.
easy. Side
Okay.
to
Yeah, that's
side,
good.
you
Yeah,
know?
side to side. Yeah.
But, like, straight up dance hall, like Patra style
Yo,
or I don't know,
dancehall is a skill.
or
Trust me.
like
That
Lady
dancehall
Song.
come in like some acrobatics more time. Like it look like something with like a boom flick.
Like,
You ever
some
hear
of
the term
those
boom flick?
women yeah,
Yeah,
they're doing
yeah,
more than that.
yeah.
I'm just like,
Exactly.
"Wow,
Yeah.
sheesh."
Or they call it daggering. That's our next.
So I guess you can dance too, probably can dance as
Yo,
well in a
I
few.
used to really, Yo, me and my boys, when we go to dancehall parties, we used to be in, I'd be in the group of dudes. Like, we had this dance called a bruckout.
Hmm.
Bruckout was where you kind of like, like do all that. And me and my friends, anytime dancehall come the thing, going out the middle of dancehall and one circle, people are circle around and me jumping out the middle and start bruckout and like you take out like your fake machine gun, and you're like, like
Oh man.
like I used to do all that stuff, but like I don't do that anymore.
No, you don't do that anymore.
Not so much, but I used to.
Oh,
That used to
okay.
be my thing.
Oh man, I need to see you at Caravana. I think I'm just gonna go just to find your float and take some
There,
video footage
yo,
of you as
there
well.
are
That'll be
much
fun.
better dancers at Caravana than me. Trust me, I'm not going to
Yeah.
be the most entertaining thing there, but sure.
No one really cares though, like
Yeah,
no one
yo.
cares.
No,
Like,
it's Caravana's a vibe, man. It's all about just catch the music, catch the
oh,
vibe, and just
hey,
do your thing
DJ
out there,
Mr.
man.
Drew says, can we see the
Yo, Drew, go on,
Brookouts?
the man.
Wow.
Low me, no man. Low
Yes,
me.
I
Just
think we
low
should.
me. Low me, no
No, we
man. Me
should.
not.
Let's maximize the screen here. You're too tiny. I have to keep maximizing it because I can't see
Bruckout's
you.
gonna cost you. That's gonna cost you a little. That's gonna come with a fee.
Okay, I'm gonna come. I'll definitely come out to Hepburn. I'll definitely
Oh,
see that as well. Yeah,
that's
for
funny,
sure. Well, it should be good. I hope they don't lock down the city again before Caravana. So
man.
hopefully everything will be okay with that. So yeah, so how long you were DJing before radio then too, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
how many years have you been DJing for
Yo,
then?
honestly, one of the things I was gonna tell you, it's so funny. Um, so I started this interview telling you that like I've gotten into radio two different ways, and I told you the
Hmm.
way that I got into radio, basically going to a radio station, starting from the bottom, whatever. But what I realized later in life is that I was already studying radio as a kid. Like
Hmm.
when I was a kid, I would literally sit in front of the radio with my cassette tapes, and I'd hit play
Hmm.
record, and I'd record radios, I'd record radio shows, and I have my tapes that were shows, and I'd have my tapes that were music. So on
Hmm.
the show tapes, it'd be just the DJs talking, and I'd stop the tape when the music started.
Yeah.
But on my music tapes, I'd stop the tape when the DJs were talking. I'd let it play and record when the music was playing. So I had
Hmm.
two sets of tapes, and like that was like the beginning of learning how to mix and edit. That
For
was like
sure.
that's beginning training. When I was little, I used to listen to all the radio morning shows, and I'd listen to the games, and I'd actually like write down on paper the games they were playing, and I'd be like, okay, Elvis Duran plays these games, Ed Lover and Dr. Dre play these games, Carl Pebby Bryant plays these games, and that's like the beginning of producing. Like I was doing it as a kid, and I didn't even realize it. When we were one of my good friends told me that when we were kids, I forgot we even did this. We used to stay up all night, like when we were in like middle school, and we'd listen to radio shows, and we'd be on our phones together, and like we'd be listening to late night talk shows, and then we'd go to school, and the topics they were talking about. There was this one show with Dr. Judy called Love Phone, and it'd be all these
Hmm.
sex topics and shit,
Hmm.
nasty shit. And we'd go to school, and then we'd start asking people the questions that we heard on the radio show.
Oh wow.
And I forgot all this stuff. And, once I got older and got the opportunity to work at a radio station, I kind of like brought all that stuff that I was really
Hmm.
into my experience. So in a weird way, what I learned was that like sometimes it's just the natural things that you were always doing that can become what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like they
So
became,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and no one told me to do that. No one
Hmm.
pushed me in that direction. I didn't even know I was doing it. So the question was about DJing. When I was a kid, my dad, I told you he was a DJ. He had a big DJ set up in the basement, had his two turntables. He had was it a Newmark mixer? I forgot we had a couple mixers. He had equalizers, and him and his friends from Brooklyn would come in and they string up the sound, as we call it in Jamaica, string up sound, plugging in speakers and all this stuff. And I just sit there and watch them.
And probably mad bass too.
Yo, the house would shake
Like your
every Sunday.
heart. Like your
Yo,
heart.
honey, the house, your head, your eyes would shake in my house every Sunday morning.
Oh man.
I used to wake up and I'd smell fried dumpling frying and
Oh, that
bass
sounds
booming.
good.
That
Oh
was my
man.
mornings on Sunday. And
Hmm.
just sitting there and watching my dad with these records that you see right here, I'd say about 60% of my record collection are my father's records. I
Oh
watch him
wow.
play these records.
Amazing.
These records are older than me. The 45 box over here, there's a spilling over 45s from like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I used to study these records. I used to watch my dad play Delroy Wilson and like
Mhm.
Ken Booth and John Holt and all these. I was studying and I didn't even realize it. Yo, I have Michael Jackson's Thriller. I used to watch my dad play that album. I mean, Soca Thunder, legendary Soca album, Kashif Lindo.
Mhm.
I mean, when I tell you, Honey Flo, that I was studying music as a kid, but not realizing I was studying music, by the time I got to the point where I was DJing, I knew all this music already because I
Yeah.
was already doing it. So as a kid, you know, when we got to high school and we were started partying, we'd go to friends' basements and we say, let's throw our own parties. You know, I teeth a couple records from home and bring them with me because you can't take your parents' records. You know what I'm saying? Yo, big up
Mhm.
yourself. Whoever said big up Far Rock. Um, you know, take a couple records, but I'll just take 5 of them and I'll play these 5 when I get to the party. You know, we'd play records in the basement, invite our high school friends over, invite some girls over, maybe sneak some liquor in there and be in the basement. Even in my cousin's basement in Hempstead, Long Island, and we'd throw these little parties and we were DJs. You know, sometimes I have to use cassette tapes. So I had the Mary J.
Mhm.
Blige Real
Oh,
Love
nice. I
single.
still have that.
I had the Boomerang soundtrack and I'd cue up
Mhm.
the tape right to where the Tony Braxton song started so that when I get to play, I put my tape in and hit play, and I will give you my heart. It would start right there, but like
Nice.
that's queuing up music. So my youth experiences and what I was doing as a kid was preparing me for what I would ultimately be doing, and it's just like God is good, yo. God is
Mhm.
good because I'm right now sitting amongst the records. These are my father's records. I'm
Mhm. That
sitting
is
amongst the
amazing.
records. Like it is actually blowing my mind.
Yeah.
That
No,
that
it's true.
Thriller, I didn't buy that Thriller. My dad bought
Wow.
that. You know what I'm
That's
saying? Like,
crazy.
and these are the records that I use now. Like, when the world fell apart and the pandemic started, the usual suspects will tell you, I
Mhm.
actually drove back to New York to get these records. Like, I got to bring the records to Canada. So when the border first opened, I drove to New York and I packed up my car full of records and I said, I got
Mm.
to play these records for you guys because this is the time when we need this music. And
Yeah,
that's
that's special.
and that's what we did. So my youth became my career.
Mhm. And it
That's
feels like it's come, yeah, in full circle, right? When you think about it, like, how many years has your dad had those records for? Like, do you even know what year he bought those records in?
Yo,
You
Honey
know?
Flow, me and a friend went through these records and they're literally things I shouldn't own this stuff. Like the
Mm,
stuff in here that like there are records in here like there's like in Jamaica they have a thing called festival like every Independence Day they do a big Independence festival and each of the DJs and musicians from town record songs and then they get them pressed onto
mhm.
records and it's the festival song that this is my in whatever the greatest song of the year is crowned the festival song for the year. I've got original festival 45 pressings from like they don't even have a label on them. They're just like literal records that were pressed in Jamaica that became big hits.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
I've got the original bam 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 what bam I've got original 45 of that. I've got things that I have no business having and they're mine
Mhm,
and they're like the actual like basis of the culture. Like this
mhm.
room is the culture. That's what I feel like. This room is the culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a cool story too, you know? Yeah, that's really, really awesome and special to drive all the way back and pick up those vinyls, you know? I
Yeah.
wish I was a customs border agent because I would probably be like, "Excuse me, you can't bring those," and I'd
I'll tell
probably
you what happened.
wipe all your vinyls
You
from you.
I'll tell you what
Oh,
happened.
no. Oh,
I
no.
drove to the border, and this is like when the border first opened, and I was like literally the only one at the border because no one
Oh,
was
no.
driving between New York and Canada.
Yeah.
When I got to the border, they're like, "What are you bringing?" I was like, "Just some records." And he goes, "Did you just buy those?" I'm like, "Nope, they're mine." And then if I had they really could have charged me for them, but I was like, nope. They're like, all right, go right ahead. But I had like 7 crates, like
Oh
more
my
than 7, I
gosh.
had big ass crates of records. And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm just picking up my records."
Yeah, they could have said that they could have very
They could have
well
get like an
charged you.
import tax. So they could have told me I was importing
Yeah,
stuff. And I was just like, nope.
exactly. I mean,
I ju-
I would have so I could snatch those records at the border from you.
exactly, exactly.
No,
But
yeah.
I was lucky though.
Yeah, yeah, you're super lucky for sure. So, how did you actually just jump on Twitch? Was it the typical story that, you got kicked off Instagram and Facebook and you discovered Twitch, or how did that happen for
I
you?
was having trouble on Instagram because of all the licensing and copyright stuff. Like
Mhm.
when it started, it wasn't the case, but then Instagram kind of got hip to the game, and like after 10 minutes of streaming, all of a sudden you're getting kicked off, and they're stopping. Then you had to refresh, and log on
Ugh,
again.
so annoying.
And
Yeah.
then I give credit to my good friend DJ Flipside at
Mhm.
DJ Flipside 33, a Chicago guy. We worked together for a long time at B96, and he's an amazing mixer. DJ Flipside is one
Hmm.
gifted MFer, like
Mhm.
gifted on unbelievably gifted. But he's a friend, and we were just on the phone one day, and he was like, "Hey man, are you on Twitch?" I was like, "What?" I didn't even know what it was. Uh,
Hmm. Mhm.
and at first when he said it, I just thought in my head, I was like, "Man, I'm not getting on. I'm not doing one more freaking platform.
Exactly, it's a
I'm
lot.
platformed out."
Yeah, I hear you.
um, but he introduced me to Twitch, and then I looked at it a little more, and I was like, okay. And I saw all the DJs starting migrating to Twitch. I was like, okay, I'm probably going to have to do this.
Mhm.
So what am I going to need to do this? So at the time I was just on my laptop, only, but I had another iMac like desktop computer, but it was in the garage because I had just moved to Toronto and I hadn't really set anything up yet. And I was like, I think I'm going to need that other computer. It's because I'm going to need a streaming computer. And my house at the time was being renovated. Like the house
Mhm.
was literally a construction site. Like it was just bare walls and like beams and exposed. I mean, there was a toilet in here. There was
Oh,
literal like a
jeez.
toilet
And
in
your
this room,
vinyls.
and
So it
yeah,
was those
it,
things.
it was crazy. This room was just a depressing place to be in.
Oh, man.
Had it not been for the equipment. So
Mhm.
just little bit over the time, I just set this room up and made it, my studio space, and
It's
got on Twitch.
nice too. It looks like a nice studio, like your lighting back there. You got the New York Station sign. I
Thank
think
you.
Nerd Chris is in the room. She needs one of those.
Yo, big
That's
up.
a really cool sign.
That's another one of my mods, Nerd Chris. She's
Yeah,
incredible.
I just found out she was one of your
Yeah,
mods.
yeah.
Should have asked her.
She's new to the mod squad.
She's
Uh,
amazing, Nerd
yeah,
Chris. I just interviewed her, so you're gonna have to check out the replay as well with
can't
Nerd
wait.
Chris. That was
I
a
can't
special
wait.
interview. Actually, we were talking about aisle two. I'm gonna just switch it up for 1 minute. I'm
Sure.
not sure if you're familiar with aisle two, but I
Mm,
always talk about finding love in your grocery store, aisle two. So, and everyone has an aisle two globally. So if you're single, you can easily find love in aisle two of my
okay.
show. Or
Okay.
if you're in a relationship, then restoring the love in aisle two, because everyone needs love in this day and age.
Sure.
So I went through the whole aisle two experience with Nerd Chris. Now, investigating you, I found some interesting things out about you
Okay.
on the social. So for all you guys I don't know, he's on CTV, right? Sometimes in the mornings, Saturday mornings. Is it? It's sometimes, or it's regularly,
Pretty
or
regularly. I would say like every other week I do the
awesome.
it's called Weekend Review, that segment. Yeah.
Okay, so he does weekend review on CTV, guys. And I found a little bit of aisle two from him, guys. Oh, I should have downloaded the clip. The problem is I tried downloading some of your clips from Instagram, but it wouldn't let me.
Okay.
So I couldn't, I don't think I found, I should have tried finding it. Maybe it was on YouTube. But the social, he got on the social, guys, which is an amazing show that I've watched for years out here too. So he's sitting there and they're asking him dating questions, guys. And I don't know how old this was, so I don't want to get you in trouble if you're with someone or if you're not. I'm not quite sure, but
Okay.
I won't be in your business. But this chat room is going to be all in your business. So, so it's up to you what you want to say and what you don't want to
Oh,
say. But
okay.
he was talking about going on a date, guys. With I wish I had the clip. You guys are gonna have to go to
Oh, I know what clip you're talking
yeah, and
about.
it was hilarious. And then I was like, "Oh shoot, maybe I should do my nails so he doesn't see the all the
Stop,
crazy."
stop.
But no, they're not like crazy like that. It's just nail polish, right? So
Okay.
anyways, he was talking about dating this girl and she was a gorgeous girl, at the table. But the thing that was a turnoff for him is it looked like she chewed her nails down to the ground. Like I guess they're super, super short. So he just couldn't get over that. So what I'm thinking is I don't think girls chew their nails down to the ground, especially if they're like, I don't know. I could
I
be
gotta beg to
biased.
differ, man. Like
No, but I
honestly,
think maybe she had press-ons, or maybe she went to the nail salon and they put so much glue and they shave your nails down where they're so numb you can't even like feel your fingers, that maybe she took
Honey
off her
Flow.
nails. She took off her
I was
nails.
there. I was there. Allow me. I mean, listen, no shame to anyone, no shade to anybody. Everyone's clock ticks a little differently. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
For me, for me, the way her nails looked, it just was like I couldn't not look at it, and it was distracting.
But
So
I
I
don't understand, like, how
like
bad were her nails? Like, what do you mean? Were
like
they
she,
down to the
it was
ground, like,
no, it was like she bit her nails and she had bit them down to like the nail bed. So like they were really like like nubby. It was just very. It was interesting. It almost looked like she had a problem. I was just like, "Ooh, this is probably not gonna work for me. But I'm sure there's love for her somewhere else, but it just wasn't with me. You know
so
what I'm
that was
saying?
the only thing. You said she was a pretty girl, but then there was just her nails, you basically said, look like nubs. I've never had a guy ever say a girl's nails look like nubs. So then I'm like, oh shoot, before this interview, I better grow my nails out. Not saying I got
Don't you
nubby nails.
dare
I don't
stop
have
it.
nubby nails. I don't. Let's just clear this up for the record.
The
But
other part of that
I was
interview
like,
that I admitted is that I also feel like my fingernails are awful. So it's
oh
me
yeah, you did
probably
say that.
projecting my insecurities onto her. You know what
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying? So
Well,
like
I hope you're not a nail biter. Are you a
I'm
nail
not a
biter?
nail biter.
Yeah, I
I
don't like
just
that.
have really dry skin and I don't get manicures, so it's a
Oh,
bad
you should go to
combination.
get a manicure maybe.
I
That
should, but I
wouldn't that
just don't. You know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
don't know
that's
why.
not good.
I should go more often. I just
Yeah, exactly. But the
so
one thing that I can't stand, I don't know if you see this a lot, is when guys grow their nails. Like when a guy's nails,
yeah.
especially their pinky nail, let's see here, their
Yeah.
pinky nail is like
Yeah.
longer than any other nail, and they say it's for style. I don't like that.
That
Or
was a
if you
thing in like the
see,
90s. I remember guys
oh,
were doing
really?
that.
I don't like
They
that.
grew up the one
That's a
pinky
turn off.
nail. Or you have the dudes that like if they smoke a lot of weed, like you
Mhm.
start to see like the weed grinds, like or the nail on the nails. It's just like
Ew.
all
Oh,
that stuff is
really? I
just
didn't know that. That's something good to look out for. I
yeah, all
didn't
that
know that.
stuff is like, and I have nothing against weed smoke because it's all good. But
Mhm.
you know, hygiene is a thing. And even though I don't have the greatest, I'm not like an A plus
Mhm.
plus. Like
Let's maximize his nails, guys. Let's maximize his nails. I'm just
well,
joking.
I
I'm
do.
joking.
Yeah, Nerd Chris knows what's up. You know that little pinky sometimes to make a little scoopy scoop
No,
with
I
things.
don't like that. Like, I
Uh,
don't know. People tell me it's for style, the pinky nail. Like, who
mm,
grows their nail longer than a girl for
it's a scoop.
style? Like,
It's a scoop. You know. And,
ew. Clip your
yeah.
nails, peoples. And
Um.
don't have dirt under your nails. Like, do not have dirt under those nails.
Listen. Like these are all great things to make and great statements to make, but I admittedly don't have the greatest nails either. So like this is what I'm telling you. Like, you know,
Oh,
do as I
no,
say, not
sounds
as I
like
do, type of
cocaine.
thing, right?
Mm. I hope not, because
Yeah,
yeah,
Richard knows who I
talked to
going, man.
people
Like,
that had longer nails.
yeah, that
I don't like
pinky,
that. He
that
said it was just
pinky.
style. I was like, "Ew,
No,
it's gross.
that's one of these.
Ew, I don't
Yeah,
like it."
but anyway,
Anyways,
yeah.
so yeah,
Anyway,
so that goes to aisle 2, guys. So I was just curious if anyone's got any questions too. Do you have a few minutes? I wanna respect your time
yeah. Go
too,
ahead. Yeah,
'cause
I got a
yeah,
couple
'cause
more minutes.
I know
I
it's
got a couple
past
more minutes.
7 right now. It's so great just chopping it up with you as well. Like, there's so many more questions I've not gotten to, but I'll
Well,
definitely have
pick
you
like your
back.
best couple, couple more. Let's
Yeah,
see.
for sure. So if anyone also has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Denise, yeah, she says, I want to go to IL 2. Oh, do you have any advice, by the way, for IL 2? Now that I mentioned it, do you have
What would be an example of aisle two
like
advice?
so just like maybe advice to singles, that are trying to
Yeah,
get out there, trying to date. It's hard during
100%.
quarantine.
I
Like I'm
have
actually,
great advice.
yeah.
I
Okay,
have
what's
great
that?
advice. The best connections are made over things that you're mutually passionate about. I really believe
Oh
that.
yeah, I
I think
agree.
if you can meet someone where you share a passion with, where it's not
Hmm.
even sometimes it can be something mundane as like you both are really into like a certain food or you both are into music or whatever it is. It's a good place to start because then you kind of get to see what drives a person. But relationships are a long road.
Yeah,
Like,
it's true.
one of the things that hurts my heart when I think about my relationship history is like when relationships end, there's
Hmm.
always like a bad guy and a good guy, and it's
Hmm.
like it doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes they just don't work. If two
Hmm.
people aren't working out, it's fine. And everyone has to kind of like there's a couple billion people on earth and 99% of them are not compatible with you. With that said, you know, things happen, barring any disrespect or harm done to you, sometimes you got to just call it a day and
That's
and and,
true.
and understand that like for whatever reason it just didn't work, and it's okay.
Hmm.
And people don't have to be made to be like, you're a dick, you're an asshole, you're all that stuff. It's just
Hmm.
sometimes it's just me and this person are not going to work. I'm good, and you don't have to make it like a demon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's some good advice. And mutual interests, I think, are really, really key. Do you think DJs could date each other? I always heard that stay away. Like everyone's like,
I
no, run
I
for
don't
the
have that
hills. There's
experience.
no way.
I don't know, but I
Mhm.
suspect from what I understand about DJs tend to be competitive
Yes,
and
competitive.
territorial.
Yeah.
So I could see. I Let me tell you something. I know a DJ couple. How about
Hmm.
that? I know
Well,
one
we do
DJ couple.
too. Or I
Um.
always put her on blast. Nerd Chris and Amani experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's okay. That's. I know
Who's
two
the
DJ
other
couples
couple you
then.
know? Who's the other
DJ
couple?
Mos, DJ MOS, and what's his wife's name? Gosh, why did I forget her name?
I have to look them up.
I went to college with him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, DJ MOS and his wife. Gosh, I forget her name, but he's a great. He's actually one of my favorite DJs, like of
Hmm.
all time. He's happens to be a friend, and he's married to a DJ, and she DJs, he DJs. They're both great. He does like big events, like he's like the official DJ for the Grammys. Like, so you'll see
Wow, that's
him DJing
amazing.
on TV at the Grammys and stuff. He lives in LA. We both went to the University of Maryland. But
So you never
he's
know, it could work. Yeah, Junior says aisle 5 is nice. For all you guys that don't know, aisle 5 is the entanglement section on the Honey Flow show. That's why I went like this to him when you were talking. I was listening to you, but I went like that. I'm trying to get him on as a bachelor, but he doesn't want anything. I was like, dude,
entanglement section.
I've been
Y'all are
promoting you for like
crazy.
2 years and it's so annoying.
Oh,
Now
I
I
want to big
can't
her up real quick. I'm so
find him
sorry.
as a bachelor.
DJ Mos and
Mhm.
Kiss the DJ. That's her name.
Oh,
And
Kiss the
they're
DJ.
yeah, they're both great DJs. Like you guys should check him out on Instagram. It's at DJ MOS. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, Nerd Chris says, I think both DJs are fine. It's when the guys DJs, oh, it's like dating a cop? Oh, whoa, what kind of experience are you having with the Monty
Yeah.
experience, Nerd Chris?
No,
What
I
do you
think she's talking about pre-Amani. That's what she's talking about, pre-Amani. Basically, like
Oh,
because they always say that you can't trust cops, because cops always have
oh,
like,
I didn't get it. I thought it was the
yeah,
opposite way. I'm like, oh, is Monty experience wearing a cop uniform? Like, there's
no.
something you're not telling us, Nerd
So
Chris?
to fill you in, the stereotype of dating a cop is that like they have, everything whenever they leave the house, like, oh, I just got a call, I got to go to work, I just got a call, and they're really going to some other woman's house. It's like
Oh, wow.
they're always faking, oh, I just got an emergency, I'm getting,
It's like an army, someone from the army too, I guess, or
yes,
a sports player or something, right?
yeah. So
Or
what they're
like a
saying is,
musician.
I man, relationships are just so freaking. You just got to get to a place where it's not even just about sex anymore. Because
Mhm.
like you get to a part and we're like, sex is sex and sex is sex is sex, and then it's like, I got to live with you, I got to be with you, we got to get along, we
True.
gotta put something together and make
Mhm.
being together worth it and bearable. And sex
True.
is not the end all be all.
No, because you need more, like, you obviously need more than that, like, you need mental, spiritual, like, there's so much more, right, than
I will
just
go.
physical?
I will even go by as far as to say is like, me personally being cheated on is not even a red line for
Mm.
me. Like, because
Mhm.
like there's just so much more to
Hmm.
like the life experience than that. Like we can work on that. Like,
Mhm.
if you don't like my stroke anymore, I can adjust it. Like if you like what it's just so much more to life than just that. And that's where I am in my
Mm.
mind. Like it's not about just checking off boxes
Yeah.
and be like, okay, you did this, you did this. It's like, can we live this life together? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You know what I'm looking at? And I know this is going to sound kind of deep, and I know we're kind of wavering. I don't normally talk about, well, actually, I have been talking about IL2 quite a bit, but
Mm.
it is definitely commitment. But one thing I'm learning is that, with dating, we always like, you know, go for someone we're attracted to, or, we're always looking at the chemistry piece, but you got to look at more than that. But I'm also looking at like, how do you share purpose with someone? Because if you're like, say,
Preach.
moving, or you're or doing this or doing that, like what can your purpose be before you leave this earth? So it's like if you could support his purpose and he could support yours, that's that's what it means when two or more join together, not just one. I know everyone, it's very individualistic, and a lot of people have just kind of lost hope when it comes to, I guess, aisle two. I'm still hopeful, but I think I've never looked at dating that way, that it should be about purpose, because
Yeah.
I always see like men grow so much more further. And not to generalize or stereotype, but this is just
Okay.
what I see, that we're kind of helpmates, right? So it's like men go like skyrocket far. Like look at Steve Harvey. He could do everything on his own, but when he met Marjorie, it's like he skyrocketed even
Mhm.
further, right?
Sure. Sure.
Like, I mean, even you look at Nerd Chris, she helps Amani with his show, and I'm sure he could do it on his own, but he's moving a lot further ahead with having, like a good woman by his side.
And
Uh,
you know what? Like that is a
and vice
beautiful thing
versa.
to have
Mhm.
somebody who can help aid your journey and sees it as urgent enough to invest in what you're doing. Great,
Mhm.
yo, that's great. I mean, look at Oprah and Stedman. Like
Yeah.
he's in there for the long haul. No joke.
Mhm.
What I who knows what the relationship is behind closed doors, but he's
True.
he's signed on, and she's, if she's the face of it, and he has to take the back seat or play support, like he's there for that. And that's a beautiful
Exactly.
thing. It's
Or
about the bigger
Denzel
picture.
Washington too, like, even there's so many great men. I just feel like we live in this day and age where everything's so individualistic, and women are more like, "Hey, I'm independent. I don't need no man, or I'll take a man when I want to on my own terms." Now, like, it's changed so much
Yeah.
that I just feel like, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with traditional roles, but I do feel that I don't think we're created to just be alone. You could make that choice, but I think two is much better than one. But hey,
I
call me too old school. Like,
I
I don't
tend to
know.
agree with you, and I would also add that relationships take all types of shapes,
Hmm.
and I'm just not one of these people that put it into a freaking box and this is how it has to look and this how it has to play out. Like, it's really all about the plan and how it's going to work. And if you can find a structure that works for your ultimate goal, then that's what it is. And you don't have to answer to anyone except yourselves at the end of the day on how that looks.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So going back, I guess, we've covered pretty much everything today, and there's so much more to cover. For all you guys that don't know, he also does, different adventures besides DJing. He plays soccer, he does scuba diving, and there was three S's. I think I jotted down: scuba diving
Soccer,
and,
scuba,
yeah,
snowboarding.
sharks. Oh yeah, snowboarding. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, how do you those are very, very different, hobbies. How did you get involved with, like, scuba diving? And I watch your snowboarding, like, you're actually really good at snowboarding. Have you done competitions or anything? Yeah, too?
I've done some small competitions when I was beginning, but I got most of my experience actually teaching. Like I started teaching, like, so the Nike of snowboarding, the brand would be
Mhm.
called Burton.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so Burton has a nonprofit, not for profit organization called Chill,
Mhm.
and they basically take kids from the inner city and they give them all the gear. They take them from different
Awesome.
schools and they bring them up to local ski hills in whatever city that they're in, and they give them everything. They give them the boots, the jackets, the goggles, helmets, everything. So these
Mhm.
kids, all they have to do is bring themselves, um, and they can just learn how to snowboard. So, but they have volunteer instructors who come out and do that. And I was very, very I really, really loved that organization because most of these kids were black and brown kids who had never, in our communities, playing in the snow is looked down upon. They tell you
Mhm.
it's white, you're not
Mhm.
supposed to do that. But it's really messed up because if you live in a cold winter city, if you live in a city where
For
7, 8,
sure.
9 months out of the year it's cold, and you're
Mhm.
told that to enjoy sports in the periods of the year where it's majority cold, like you're missing out on an opportunity.
Mhm.
And I thoroughly believe the next Olympic gold medal snowboarder, hockey player, any winter sport is sitting in the inner city somewhere in like New
Yeah.
York, Detroit, Toronto, being told that he's not supposed to do it because he's too
It's
black to do
true.
it.
It's true, and they say that even here, like, in Canadian cities, obviously, here as well, which I think is so crazy, Especially like you said, we come from winter, right? But I kind
Like,
of feel like you're really, like, Canadian. I feel like you're Canadian inside.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm from New York, so
Yeah,
like,
you are.
you know,
Yeah.
it's cold as shit out there too. So like, snowboarding is very much a New York activity.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're not going to like a mountain, you're kind of like finding like stuff in Central Park to like, do jibs and stuff. We call it jibbing, but like when you're like sliding on
Hmm.
rails and doing all
Wow.
that stuff. So it's kind of like urban warrior type ish. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's not too far off. And where I grew up in New York, I grew up in Far Rockaway. If you look at it on the map, it's literally a little town. I'm from one of the smallest towns in all of New York City. It's still New
Oh,
York
wow.
City, but
Hmm.
it's a small town on the beach. And
Hmm.
so I grew up in the beach. Like I woke up, and I drove past the ocean every morning, like, and saw the waves crashing during the summer. Everyone's surfing, all colors. People are out there surfing, learning how to surf and
That's so
swimming.
awesome. So
People are,
surfing, is it similar to snowboarding? Like,
yeah, it's
I've
very
tried
similar.
snowboarding. It is tough, man. Like, you have 2 feet strapped in, guys, snowboarding, and once you fall, it's like, "Earl, you can't get up." Well, I can't get up. Like, I'm like, "How do I get
There's a
up?" Like, I'm
technique,
so
like,
small. I
once you
can't
get
even
used
get
to
up
it,
on this thing.
nah, once you get
Yeah.
used to it, you could pop up. Like, if I fall on snowboard, I pop right back up.
Maybe
Like,
you
it's
could pop up because you look tall, but, like, short people can't just pop up
you
like
you
that.
gotta develop the core muscles. It's like it's really in
Oh,
your
that's
stomach
what it is?
muscles. That's what it is.
Oh.
You have to have the core muscles to get up. But, yeah, they're both very hard on different levels. Snowboarding is hard because, like, you're strapped in,
Yeah.
and, if you catch an edge, meaning, like, if you're going one direction and you catch an edge on the wrong side, it will flip you over.
Mhm.
Surfing is hard because it's much less stable than being on the ground. Like, you're on a
Yeah,
board
you're
on
not
the water.
strapped in really?
You're not set, but the
Yeah.
board never is still. Like, it's on
Oh,
the water,
yes.
so it's always like,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So, like, to find balance on a board on the water while on a wave is very, very
Mhm.
hard.
And you're
Very
not
tough.
afraid of, like, seeing sharks or anything? Like,
I'm a little bit afraid of seeing sharks on a snowboard because no, I'm
mhm,
sorry, on a
the
surfboard
snowboard.
because
Yeah.
it is actually more common. If you're gonna get attacked by a shark, it's probably on a surfboard. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wow,
Um,
that's
but s-
crazy.
but scuba diving, hardly anyone gets attacked by sharks. Scuba diving because sharks like kind of look up for their prey, and on a
Mhm,
surfboard, your hands when you're kind of paddling in the water, your
mhm.
hands and legs off the board with the long board, you look like a seal or a sea lion
Oh,
from
shoot.
underneath.
So
So
that's what
shark,
they're thinking.
yeah, the shark humans are not on the shark diet. So like they bite, they don't eat people, they bite them, they're like, "Ah, shit, human." And then they
Oh.
run away, but the damage is done at that point,
They're
you know what
not
I'm saying?
attracted to blood, though? Aren't they attracted to blood?
They
So if
are, but
they
it's
beat you or eat
but
you or
they
bite
don't,
you?
they'll bite you, but once
Yeah.
they taste you, they're like, "Oh, damn human again." Like, we're not
They're
very
like, "Oh,
fat,
man." Yeah.
we're not very muscular. It's just mostly
Mhm.
bone, and it's just not a good meal. A
Well, some of
seal,
us are muscular. Some of us are muscular
even
around
if you think you're muscular,
here. I'm
you're
just
not as
joking.
muscular as, say, a large sea lion. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
I'm just
saying?
joking.
I know. But I guess what I'm saying is that's a much better meal. So,
Yeah. There
yeah.
was a question here I was just trying to find. There's actually a few questions. If you guys wanna just repost your questions quickly, I was just trying to scroll up and find them. I think I just missed it.
Mm,
Oh, someone asked, I think, if there's a difference between Caravana and some of the other carnivals that you went to as
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
what are the differences?
That's a great question. No one's ever
Mhm.
asked me that before, but that's a great question. What I love about Carnival is every carnival in every country. Trinidad is like the originator and the big one.
Yeah,
Trinidad and
yeah,
like
for sure.
if you're leaving out of Caribbean culture, of course, Brazil, Carnival of
Mhm.
Brazil, that's a whole other animal. But when you talk about Caribbean carnivals, Trinidad is like the big stage. But every carnival has like a different flavor and a different twist to it. For example,
Mhm.
Jamaica's carnival, which is a wonderful carnival, you will hear a lot of dancehall on the road, and that's something you will not hear in Trinidad or in Toronto.
Mhm.
Like you'll actually, because Jamaica's the home of dancehall and reggae. So like at
Mhm.
some point on the road, like towards the end of the carnival, you'll see all the dancehall artists get on top of the truck, and all of a sudden ding dongs on the truck, and everyone's
Oh,
doing
wow.
flary, flary,
That'd be
flary.
so much
So
fun.
it's like you get that dancehall flavor
Mhm.
in Jamaica doing that carnival. Um, the beautiful thing about crop over in Barbados is that the carnival runs through the town. Like you're like the parade goes past people's house, and like it's like these valleys and mountains on both sides, hills, and then you see people. I'm talking like you could touch their hand. They're sitting on their veranda, just kind of giving you a high five, and it's a carnival through the town, which is so special because Toronto's not like that. Toronto, you're essentially on a highway, you know, on Lakeshore Drive, past the Gardner, you know,
Don't you
by
feel
the.
like Toronto, it's more soca out here
Oh yeah,
the whole time?
Toronto's a soca city.
You think
Like,
so? There's a
oh
lot
my
of
god,
reggae too, but
yeah, but
Carabana
soca
is like
is
a lot of soca.
Caravanas is a lot of soca, but like soca is so big in Toronto. It's so
Hmm.
like soca is not even this big in New York. It's big, but it's not.
Really?
No way.
You know, if
Soca,
I were to close my eyes, don't you feel like Toronto DJs and New York DJs are very similar, the sound?
they are very
Like, if I were
similar.
to close my eyes and not listen to accents or anything, just hear you guys play,
Yeah,
I would literally think you're a Toronto DJ. That it's the only special place I feel live that is so similar. And maybe
yeah.
some places in the UK. There's some guys in the UK that play. Like, I feel
Toronto
like
and New
it's
York
just
are
similar.
the style is similar just because we're so close to each other. And I mean, admittedly, you'll hear Toronto DJs say this, like they travel to New York, you know, like
Hmm.
Toronto DJs, even though they have their own culture and style, a lot of the influence of Toronto is New York because New York is such a big music city
Hmm.
for Caribbean people. Like every person in Toronto has a New York relative. You know, when they were a kid, they were going back and forth to New York to visit their relatives, and then they'd buy a Clue tape or a Funk Master
Hmm.
Flex tape, or they buy Massive B, Bobby Condas, and Jabba, and bring it back to Toronto and try to, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So it was like, you know, or they were listening to, I think the station was BLK in
Yeah,
Buffalo at the time.
WBLK. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Toronto and New York share a lot of culture
They even
together.
act like New Yorkers. You know, a lot of guys, well, when I was younger,
I
they
was
will
told
rent
that. I didn't want
cars.
to say that.
A
You
lot
know,
of
you
guys for Carabana, you gotta watch out. A lot of Canadian guys, they're gonna kill me, but they rent. I remember when we were growing up and used to go to Carabana in our 20s. I mean, I'm more on the sidelines now, watching and eating my jerk chicken, rice and peas. But like when we were in the parade, jumping in, all these guys would act like they're from New York. They would rent cars, New York license plates, and I was like, dude,
stop
like, you
it.
got a Canadian accent. I know you're from Canada. Like, you can't put that on me.
Stop it.
Yes,
That
they
is
would do
so
that all the
funny.
time. And you
I
know, you could tell
mean,
that they're from here because they talk like Drake. They'd be like, "Hey, what's up, guy? What's up, bro?" You know, like they always use the word. So I heard you use bro a few times and I started laughing. I'm like, this
me?
guy's Canadian inside. I think I heard
I
you
probably
say
picked up
bro.
the accent a little bit.
Yes,
I
I think
probably
you
did.
did.
My
You did a
cousin
bit.
told me told me that like I was speaking to my cousin a couple months ago. He's like, bro, yo, son, you sound like a Canadian. Yo, you need to come back to New York. I was
Yeah.
like,
Have you
uh,
yeah, like, I mean, you're gonna be saying "a" pretty soon, you know, on your podcast.
every now and again I'll say A. And when I say it, I feel like I hear myself like, oh, I just did it.
Yeah, but you don't have to pretend. I mean, a lot of guys some guys definitely do pretend, you know, they're American
Yeah,
because
I
that's when
think
they get girls talking to them, Carabana time.
I
So they have
think
courage to actually approach the women
that's
here in
so funny to
Toronto.
hear. Well, anyway, I think well, number one, I think with the weekend and Drake and all the exposure that Toronto has, it's not
Mhm,
so much of a thing to you know, you can be a Torontonian now. Like anywhere you go, people know Toronto now. You know what I'm saying? Like there is a brand of Toronto, and it's very respected now. That's
mhm.
I will say the Toronto brand is respected. As for me, I mean, everybody knows I'm not from here. Like, who's that guy? You know, like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't take much to know enough, so I don't have to fake any funk. Like,
Yeah,
people
no,
people know what's
exactly.
up.
But
People
watch
know.
out for it, ladies. You
Ah,
will hear some guys approaching, but they're really Canadian. So watch out for
that's
that.
funny. That is so
It
funny.
is funny for sure. So on well, we're gonna be definitely wrapping up here.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering what would be on like your bucket list? The last couple questions here, like your bucket list for DJing, I guess, some music. And then the second question would be on your life bucket list in general, if you have one. And say if you had all the money in the world, like nothing, you know, nothing holding you back, what would be
She.
on that bucket list for you to do?
So as far as DJing, my bucket list would be, sometimes when you do parties, it's like, and I really don't like. I don't say I don't like. The hard part about doing parties with like a rack of DJs on it is like is
Mhm.
always a competition for like who's gonna play what song, who's gonna do
Yeah.
what set, who's gonna be at what
Mhm.
time. And like what I love about Twitch is like it's really about how I feel. And like the only feedback you're really getting is text. So the
Mhm.
sets that you guys hear me play on Twitch are really about how I feel. And sometimes I play sets like especially on my Saturday shows. I don't know where in the world would be a venue for these sets. Like
Mhm.
I'm playing everything from jazz music to hip hop. I bust out some salsa, you know, because
Yeah,
I
I love
love
it. It's a
I bust some,
mix.
yeah, I bust some salsa music. You know, I'll play all my old school hip hop, and then I'll do some, you know, shout out to anyone from the UK. I love garage music, yo. I love
Hmm.
UK garage. It's
Mhm.
so good. It's so produced well. It's
Mhm.
produced so well. It's like garage is like a math. I don't know. A lot of music for me in my head, it plays out like a mathematics problem, and
Mhm.
it's all on how you divide things and where do you
Mhm.
put the fractions and stuff like that. That's how it plays out in my head. But all that to say is that like the beauty of Twitch is that you can play a music set and curate it to exactly what you is inside and not to the crowd. Selfishly, like you have to play to a crowd as a DJ,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
most of the time on Twitch, you're really kind of just playing to yourself because you're
It's
not
true.
getting, you don't have a promoter breathing down your neck and be like, "Yo,
Mhm.
dog, pick it up, man. A couple more beats, you know, bring the BPMs up, man. That you're losing them." It's like it's not about
Mhm.
losing them. It's not about impressing the other DJ that's coming behind you. It's not about playing songs before anybody else. It's all about what you love and how what moves you. And it's a beautiful thing for me. So like I've
Mhm.
kind of been spoiled by Twitch because now like I'll play out with other DJs and stuff, and I kind of don't like it. Like I don't want to like because I want to play what I want to play, and
Exactly.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like I want to play a song that has a story and you know bring the music down and tell people like, yo, this song came out in this year and this is how it makes me feel. Bada bada bada. You know all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so my dream, answering your question, my dream DJ situation would be like, you know, High Park in Toronto or maybe like Central Park in New York, like
Nice. Yeah.
a big festival stage,
Mhm.
me alone, people out like thousands of people, and me just playing anything for hours, anything I want to play. And whoever's vibes into it, whoever's, you know, if you're blowing a J or if you're drinking some wine or if you're just
Mhm.
grinding on your man or your girl, you're just
Mhm.
their vibes in it. And there's no pressure to hurry up, start it, slow it down, none of that. Like
You
I
should
love to
apply for the Jerk Fest. I see you doing that. Like, that's huge. It's thousands of people,
apply. Yeah, I guess so. I
you
mean,
know?
yeah, I guess. I
Like,
mean,
it's nice. Or one of the like, the Greek Town Fest, like any of the big
yeah,
festivals,
yeah,
Italian
maybe.
Fest,
I would love
you
to do
know?
that. I just don't know the people involved in them yet. So, you know,
Oh, okay.
maybe
Just
next year.
Google them. But, like, yeah, the Jerk Fest for sure, I see you fitting in there, and
Yeah.
it's that's a massive stage, you know?
I'd love to play
Um
the jerk fest. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome,
that
man.
would be amazing. Roman Soldier asks, "What makes you smile and what scares?" Oh yeah, actually, you know what? Before we go to this question, what would be on your life bucket list?
My life bucket list,
Curious. Yeah.
one of the biggest things I want to do in life, it's actually not even music related. There's two places on earth. There's one place called Tonga,
Hmm.
Southeast Asia. I think that's where Tonga. Yeah, Tonga's on the South Asia.
Hmm.
I want to go there and I want to dive with humpback whales.
Wow, that would be cool.
Um, and there's another spot, Dominica in the
Hmm.
Caribbean. They have a sperm whale migration there. I want to get in the water with those. Those are like my two bucket list items. After I do those things, like we can wrap it up. I'm good after that.
That's awesome. That's really
Yeah. Not
cool.
that I want to die, but you know, like,
Yeah, yeah. I
but
know a whale.
but
I don't know anything bigger
yeah.
than me beside me. I think I'm
Oh
just
man,
gonna
like
stay
like
on
you
the
have no
ground.
no, those are moments. I think those are important moments just because it gives you perspective that like, you know, there is intelligence and life in all shapes and sizes on this earth. And when you could see something that big, like look back at you and kind of like the eyeball move and look
Hmm.
at you and kind of study you and perceive you, I can't think of anything more special than that.
It's so true. There's so much we haven't seen in this world, right? So
Yeah.
it and we think we're large, but really we're really small when you're in an ocean and you realize you really are like this tiny compared to what is out there in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why it's always nice being in water or like in nature because it
Yeah.
puts things into perspective, especially when we're going through a pandemic and everything's so chaotic in this world. I always like just going by the water, and you realize there's just such a bigger picture out there than just us, and our problems are not as huge as we feel when
We
you're
could
out
do a
in
whole
nature.
show on scuba diving.
Oh yeah.
We
Yeah,
could.
definitely. So Roman Soldier asks, what makes you smile and what scares you?
What makes me
It's a
smile?
great question.
Oh man, I know what a lot of things make me smile. A lot of things make me smile. Music, music makes me smile. Music when it works, like when a chord hits, when a beat or a drum beat or pattern kind of hits just the right way, like when you're in the pocket, as they call it. That stuff really just hits me. Like it really makes me smile because it. I don't know if it's the mathematics of it or if it's the feeling of it, but it music makes me smile. Really well produced or composed music makes me smile. Um, what scares me, was that the other question?
Yes, yeah, what scares you?
What scares me is being misunderstood,
Hmm, interesting.
and that really really scares me. Like
Wow.
I it's the someone has a saying that like you exist as a different version of yourself in everyone's brain. I'm
Mhm.
not, I know I'm not saying that right, but the idea is that everyone on earth kind of gets a different glimpse of you and has a different perspective of you, from the mailman who just sees you walking down the street to a person that kind of like, knows you only at work, or the person that knows you at home. And but then we have a version of ourselves in here. And I
Mhm.
know who I am in here. And what scares me is that it doesn't match up with who you think I am out there. That actually really scares me. Like that
Hmm,
kind of saddens me sometimes.
that's interesting.
It's,
I
it's
think
another it's another theme in my therapy sessions.
Yeah, I think in the media, you're like, I don't know if there's a way that you could ever get around that, because I think if you're in the public eye, you're always going to be misunderstood, like regardless, people. But as long as if you know yourself here and you know yourself here, then that's all that really matters,
Mhm.
compared to the world views or how they see you, because you're always going to be misunderstood, even if you have a good heart, good spirit. People just could just sometimes come at you. That's just reality, I think.
Or not come at you.
Or not
Like
come at you.
people
Yeah.
could avoid you
True. It's very
because they
true.
don't because they don't understand you. That's the one that really hurts me. Like when I feel like I struggle to connect with people and like I can't because they don't get me. That that
Mhm.
that one like kills me.
Hmm.
Because it sometimes it's
Interesting.
easy. Maybe sometimes it's easier when people want to fight you or like combat you because at least they've found something that they want to drill on, and then
Mhm.
you could fight that point out with them or whatever it is. But if there's somebody that you feel like, man, we should connect, and it doesn't happen because they maybe have a different perception of you that you just are not aware of.
Yeah. Hmm.
That unknown kind
Interesting.
of frightens me a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. Pure Piano asks, what motivates you, keeps you going? I think we kind of touched base on that earlier too.
Sure. What motivates me and keeps me going? It's a combination of two things. I don't know any other speed personally. Like I've been in show business since I was a young kid, uh,
Mhm.
doing all types of things. So like keep going is really just what it is for me.
Mhm.
That motivates me. And I think also lately, what motivates me is to like, remembering that I've been blessed to find something that I do that puts me in a happy place often. So if I
Mhm.
keep going, even in hard times, I will get back to the happy place because I'm doing what makes me happy.
Yeah, for sure, and that clearly shows, like, in all that you've done, and just going through your bio and the things you've done, like, not just the achievements and accolades, but you could tell that you really, truly are living, like, a passionate life, which very few that's inspiring, I think, to a lot of us, Uh, it shows that we should also do the same thing, not just be stuck in a job or something that we don't like, but actually go after the things that we do like and have courage to do it, and even if we're afraid, to push through it and go through that. And I clearly see that you doing that, moving city to city. And I give you major props for that, because that's very unique. A lot of
Thank
people
you.
can't jump and do that. The last question I'll leave you with, because I know I could literally chop it up with you for another 10 hours. This has been such an awesome conversation with you, and
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
can't wait to meet you. And I thank Kat Hepburn as well. I've interviewed a lot of people, and all the interviews have been great, but I don't know, this one I definitely feel is special. So thanks for coming on my show. Um, Pink Assassin says, "What has been the biggest challenge thus far in your life?" As well.
The biggest challenge is the biggest challenge is up here. It's trying to um reconcile what's real, what's really going on between how I feel about things and what's reality.
Hmm.
Not that I'm delusional or anything, but sometimes you start telling yourself a narrative that may be true or may not be true.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And you're trying to reconcile, what am I perceiving and what am I feeling and what is the reality and how do I work with that or around that? So I wish I could tell you a specific thing that's the challenge, but that really is it for me sometimes because there will always be challenges like, not enough money, whatever, can't get a gig, the whatever the physical challenges are. But it's the battle of trying to understand, is the narrative I'm telling myself real
Hmm.
or am I off? And do I need to adjust what I'm telling myself to affect what's really going on in the real world, with how I do business, how I'm perceived, even my own goals. Like, what do I want up here? Like, what am I doing this for?
Hmm.
Why am I doing this for? Am I doing this for some selfish reason, for some egotistical reason? Am I looking for
Hmm.
some kind of validation that is really not necessary? And if that's the case, like, am I am I living in this country for no reason just because I'm looking for some validation through this job that's not even necessary? Or am I really truly enjoying this? Like
Hmm.
these are constant conversations I'm having with myself all of a sudden. I'm enjoying it, but what am I really enjoying about it?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's yeah, self-assessment. It's really just trying to be honest with myself. And the truth takes different forms in different parts of your life. So it's just kind of checking in with yourself and making sure that this is what it is. This is what I want it to be. And if I want it to be something else, why and how do I
Hmm.
do that?
Yeah, for sure. Wow. That was deep. That was good. So thank you so much. This has been honestly such an incredible interview. It was so good chopping it up with you and just
Thank
learning
you.
more about you. I
Thank you.
want to make sure everyone adds JNIICE in the building, on Twitch, on Instagram as well. Thank you, Kat Hepburn. This is his Instagram handle. It's been going up throughout my show too. Been
Thank you.
almost 3 hours. Crazy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you for the
You know,
opportunity just to flap my lips and really like honestly, I really appreciate this. I appreciate this because and I appreciate what you're doing, not for just me, but any other person that you're interviewing. People want the opportunity to speak the truth, you know what I'm saying? And like and
mhm.
be understood on a level. That's very important to me. And I don't always get the opportunity. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. You guys definitely throw up some positive comments for him in the chat. I'm going to send you something off my show too, just from what you were saying. I played this Dove commercial and it was so powerful how we view ourselves compared to how the world views us. And it was really, really powerful. And it was a sketcher, an FBI agent that was sketching, so a person would critique themselves like I'm not great at this, or I think they would always have a harder critique of themselves, and the sketcher, not knowing what this person looked like, would sketch them, but they almost made them look like kind of angry or sad or something, right? And then they would ask a stranger, how do you view this person? You just met this person in a room. What's your impression of them? And it would be warm and kind and like something totally different from how we perceive ourselves. So just kind of some of the comments you were saying reminded me of it, and it was such a powerful video. And this FBI, he does sketches for, I
Like
think, missing,
composites and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like missing persons and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he sketched it, and then they put these two sketches together, and like everyone in the room was crying because everyone couldn't believe, like they're like, whoa, this is actually how I view myself. Like I need to like love myself better because, or maybe look at sometimes your accomplishments. Maybe it takes other people to realize the accomplishments you've done. Because sometimes in this industry, you want to go further and further. And maybe you may, but then it takes you to look at all your accomplishments and say, wow, like I've actually done a lot, with my life. And I'm being happy and grateful for those moments. Right. So anyways, I'm going to send that to you off record because it was really powerful.
Thank you.
So thank you guys so much. I'm going to also, I don't know if you can see who's online, but I usually leave it up to my guest to rate in who you want to rate into.
Oh,
So I don't know if
okay.
you can actually see who's online right now. If there's anyone
Yeah.
you would like to rate into, we could definitely do that
Yeah,
as well.
let's take a look at who's online.
Yeah, and thank you,
Uh,
Kat Hepburn. Appreciate you so much. Can't
yo,
wait to meet
big
you
up
again.
Cat Flippin' Hepburn.
Yeah, thank you so much for connecting us, you know.
Big up
Thank
Virgo Rose. Big up
yes,
Nerd Chris. Big up all the usual
Denise,
suspects.
Roman Soldier, all these new faces I see here. Miss
Roman
Diva
Soldier,
Arts.
big up.
I love your hair, girl. That you rock that well. It looks really great.
You wanna read raid Team Shellins?
Let's see here. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah, I know Amani DJs with them.
Okay,
So
awesome.
it'd be nice
Yeah.
to, let them know that friends of friends are coming through.
Okay, awesome. So let's raid in. If you want to give a few more shout outs, I'm going to set up this raid
Okay,
quickly
sure. I want to
while
give a
you're
shout
doing it.
out to Greek Goddess. Big up to Pink Assassin. It seems like we've just met, but we're becoming cool. Thank you so much. Denise, of course. Denise, thank you so much for the support. Yo, shout out to, oh, this is dangerous because if I forget somebody, they're gonna feel bad. Pure Piano, love you. Yo, big up to Mystic Mountain Show. That's what's up. I feel like we're gonna hit it off. I think I just met you today, but big up yourself.
Okay, I think
Um,
I just started. Oh, it's rating fast.
Bianca, big up
Wow.
Bianca, of course. Um, Bianca out of Chicago. Yeah. Anyone else I'm forgetting? I know I'm forgetting somebody, but yo, big up everybody,
Yeah,
yo.
big up everyone. Just want to thank you. We just started this raid. Again, thank you so much, JNIICE for joining me. It's incredible. I can't wait to see more work that you do in Toronto, meet you in person. I know you're going to rock it. And if you need someone pushing the float for you or anything, let me know.
No,
That's on my
we're
bucket
gas
list.
powered.
Do a
Don't worry,
float.
we good. Let's just have a drink. Yeah,
I'm just joking.
let's have a Hennessy and chill. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. So
saying?
everyone's saying that they love you in the chat room. Thank you guys for
I
joining
love them more.
the
All
Honey
right.
Flow Show. Make sure you guys check him out July 15th again, on Queen Street. He's having a Twitch meetup. So hope to join all you guys as well. So let's raid right now. Make sure you throw up my emotes, say hi to the next DJ, even if you're in there for 2 minutes, really helps a streamer. So let's definitely do that for him. And again, okay, I'm going to press the button here. Yeah, I think it just rated. So thank you so much. And can't wait
Thank
to
you.
see you
Can't
again.
wait to see you too. Thank you.
Yeah.
I meant everything I said. This was wonderful. This is
Yeah,
wonderful.
it
Just to
was really,
chat.
really awesome.
And I
Can't
appreciate your questions and your kudos. I appreciate that very much.
for sure. All right. Well, have a great night and
All
definitely
right.
get something to eat and we'll
I
definitely
will.
talk soon.
I'll
Okay.
see you. I'll
Take care.
see you.
Yeah. Bye.